at the end point in the same direction.
their own agenda in the negotiations.
There is no separation there in a way.
In a really bizarre situation.
You actually said it yesterday. Once you conceptualize it, it's not nothing anymore. Like it makes perfect sense. But also, I guess we don't think like that. So it's difficult. Okay, I think you've naturally covered most of the talking points. I think one thing that was interesting, did you feel like a pressure or a weight, not just like your close circle, but because there's so many millions of people who are, putting you on a pedestal, putting the lessons on a pedestal. Was there a pressure element from that during that shedding of like, am I going to let these people down? Like if I do take the robes off, if I do be more authentic, that I'm almost like maybe destroying their perception of the message?
Being perfectly honest, this was rather a very simple or very easy decision in a way to take, because I knew a natural separation would happen, yeah, but it would also mean actually that some will have the wake-up call about their own projection. That was for me more important. So why would I keep many followers that are following me because they believe in their illusion? Because they believe in their projection. So better for me to shake the masses. People realize, actually it doesn't matter how he looks, robe, not robe, title, no title. The essence is the same. Those are the ones that are looking beyond form. And this is what I'm trying to convey all the time throughout this. Looking beyond form. Beyond the form that you think is the movement. It's not about the movement. It's not about the rope. It's not about the hair. It is about something that does not have form. And that's why I'm saying all the time it's good to be nothing.
In that becoming nothing or for yourself, that transition that you've had, what things do you feel, or what things do you see gravitating towards you more now that you've managed to let go?
What do you mean in terms of gravitating towards?
Well, I wanted to say, what do you see yourself doing more or find more important? But I guess if you, I'm trying to like word it in a way like it's coming to you. But I guess what are you finding yourself doing more from like a day-to-day perspective now that you've kind of let go?
Honestly, even in all these periods where I literally practiced or stayed and telling myself to not push things too hard anymore, nevertheless now we are sitting here together, right?
Yeah.
But there is, from my side, there is something different about this one. Because, number one, I have no expectation at all about the outcome of this. No, I already right now like literally know it's gonna separate the opinions of people. Yes. Nevertheless, this meeting came out effortlessly. I didn't push it. It just somehow happened to be, we were planning last year actually to meet already in Europe. It somehow didn't happen. And I was thinking I could have pushed it maybe, yeah, and still make it possible somehow, but I'm happy we didn't. Yeah, and you know why I cancelled it? Literally because I really felt like I'm so emotionally down. It would not be the energy people would expect me to bring them the light. I was no light that time.
How hot is it out there?
I would have brought a lot of people would have said, oh,
you wearing that shirt.
That's quite some heaviness sitting there. This is like one of the reasons why I didn't make it happen. But now, still, somehow we ended up doing our next documentary. So meaning, I just take and just see what does this life just bring. I don't reject things, but I also don't push things. So that literally means, maybe later I go to the hotel room, I open my
You literally picked
laptop,
like the hottest shirt you could wear, and you
It was fine.
whatever
You just got
request it
those
is.
new cool
It was
t-shirts.
fine.
Then I
I
just
know.
think, okay,
I'm
it
just
just came
saying,
in.
you just got those new
From where they're coming
t-shirts,
from.
so I thought it was weird you
So, and
picked
then I just say, okay, maybe it
your
would be
warm
nice
winter
to
shirt.
do something about here.
Thank you.
So I'm not gonna be like
welcome.
out of,
Cookie
out
dough
of
and
this
angel hair
area,
pasta coming up.
but just falls away.
Not mixed
is
together, no. First the cookie dough ice cream.
The necessity of all of this. The necessity of all
That's
of
what he asked for. No, he's gonna
Not
have
even in terms of I need to
cookie
help the
dough
world.
Breyers
Not
ice
even that.
cream. He likes the Breyers cookie dough.
First of all, you need to help yourself. Yes.
Those
so this
guys-
is also like before, in a way, like
Yeah, that one he likes the Blue Bunny
I-
soft serve, but the
yeah,
Blue
in
Bunny
a way,
soft
I
serve, they don't
felt
have
like, I'm pushing all of
cookie
these
dough,
things
so he gets
because I want to help the
Breyers
world.
cookie dough.
Partially, yes.
Yeah.
Partially,
And
yes.
while he has his
But
cookie
like very
dough
deeply,
ice
actually, it's also
cream,
like I like to be the
I'm
one
gonna
who
make him
helps the
some
world.
angel hair pasta.
I like to be the one who a little bit helps the world.
Parmesan style.
So now I still help the world
Parmesan.
if they feel like it helps them. But I don't need to do it.
Parmesan.
I don't need to do it.
Parmesan.
How much of that was out of fear? Because I think some of that driving force to some of the decisions I make is out of fear of like losing the opportunity to do that or going back to square one, or those kind of thoughts come up in my head quite a lot, or have done, in history.
So ultimately I can just see about myself, it was holding on to a nice fantasy identity. A fantasy identity of I am that person who now has this position where many people listen to him and famous as like Shaolin Master whatsoever. It was just the fear of losing this character. Fear of losing this character. Yeah. But then, like after sitting, every character in this world has a story. Spider-Man, Wolverine, Colossus, they all have their stories. Every character has a story. But the story is never you. And that was for me the essential point of just taking my identity a little bit, my hooking on the identity. Just take this out. The character, the story of Shani continues. Just without me being too worried about where does the story go. Because I just feel like, I just said like every character has his story and you never know the outcome of the story. And so, taking myself out and knowing that I'm not this story. It is the story maybe that is public and being projected in the world to show me. But there is another parallel story that I could literally write if you would only focus and identify myself right now as father. So let's just put it like this, father. I have a whole father story that nobody knows. My wife knows, my son knows, I know.
Like baby, baby, baby.
And then there's the Shirley story. And then there's the story, how did I end up with
Like a
actually
booyah,
building my
booyah.
engines and building my Ducatis and building my race bikes. There's a whole story about that which has nothing to do with Shirley, which has nothing to do with the father. So what am I saying?
Ooh,
I have
we got
so
the
many
dark
storylines
cherries.
in my
Can we
life.
do the dark cherry ice cream? Let's make dark cherry
But
ice
from
cream.
where who is the one who made them all possible?
The
Who is the one
dark
that is
cherries
like,
with the
no
creamy
matter which
oat,
story it is,
a little bit of
who is the
agave,
one
pinch
who's
of
always
salt.
present there?
Yummy.
The
Almost
one
add a
that
few
can
drops
take
of vanilla
every
extract
form
is good
as long
too.
as he's not identified with one of them. No one.
If you want to get fancy
And this is
with
what
it.
I feel like I learned for myself, literally to
Get fancy with it.
conceptualizing it and never let no one. Take myself out and let the stories
Get fancy with it.
play out however. But knowing
What?
none of the stories is what I am in essence. It's just when I completely put my identity into
What kind of
the sugar
look
story,
is
then the
that?
suffering starts.
Mortimer.
All other stories in a way don't matter, and you believe to be that story.
Oh, Gargamel. Alright, catch you in a few minutes. Yep.
Yeah. We've spoke with a lot of Navy SEALs, and they have that same problem when they're retiring. Like, they've identified as the Navy SEAL, the hero.
not really. Most
And when they get to retirement, they like lose themselves because they're so hooked into this
I hope they help
identity.
the kids. Yeah.
We're at 2:10, so we've got a couple minutes.
We're
That's
just
the last
watching,
question I wanted to
really.
ask you. Is,
Throw out little sprinkles here or there if we can.
what is next for Master Xiang?
Yeah, for the sake of knowing what we know.
You've just kind of explained
It's
it,
really
but I
none
think
of our
it'd be a good
never mind.
soundbite
We're dead.
of me asking that in the documentary. So, what is next for Master Xiang?
I mean, the easy
And
answer.
that's the truth.
I know you would like me to say something, yeah? The first thing that would come up is that I really don't know. I really don't know. But at the same time, there is something I know.
Yeah, do that really quick. He's
I know why I got
he's
into
eating
many
cheddar ranch
troubles
brews
that I faced. I know
and
why
cookie dough
people
ice cream. Like, you're gonna eat this
as a
together.
monk.
Okay, while you wait for
I know
angel
why
hair
people
Parmesan pasta.
felt there is a type of
Okay.
conflict or something was not correct there.
Everyone always asks that they don't believe he eats what he eats.
And now I'm the one who sees very clearly what other people saw in me. I see
I think it's, I don't know if it's
that
because
in
he
this
thinks
world
a lot.
a lot is still
No, they
based
say
upon
thinking burns
how
calories.
something looks on the outside.
I don't know.
And so there are a lot of people being misguided by following only outside appearance. And at the same time, there is the group, or the ones, that appear like this, knowing, hopefully knowing, that it's not the right thing to do. But at the same time also knowing if they would come out with the truth, a lot of followers would fall off. So there is a reason why sometimes the facade is being kept alive. I'm not here to judge them. I just see how it is. And now I still feel a very deep connection because I spent 38 years along this way, namely Shaolin. I searched my whole life figuring out what is this movement and martial art aspect. What does it has to do with the part of Bodhidharma, of Zen? Until now, with this documentary, with this conversation right now, I'm telling you, the movement itself and the martial art, nothing. Because what Bodhidharma, what Zen is pointing at is purely mind. And now the only question I just like to put out a little bit is, whoever right now is connected, is following, is practicing anything that he or she thinks it is Shaolin teachings. Have you ever heard about the teaching of Zen? Have you ever heard about Bodhidharma? If not, please do so. Because this then gives you the full picture why Shaolin Temple is such a treasure. But only if that mind part starts to become an integral part of the teachings again and is not just limited, like it is apparently nowadays, to those physical exercises, where it's about form, body, skill, improving something, optimizing something, looking good, which has nothing to do with the essence of that. So I don't know what like Sheng-Yi is gonna do, yeah. But he's probably gonna like talk more nonsense, things like this.
Perfect. We'll end there, bro. That was amazing.
Bertolli, made with fresh cream and aged Parmesan. Take the Alfredo.
Going to a place like Libressu was very inspirational, coming from Tokyo.
Since, you know, we're more on the fashion end of things where we make and we put out within such a short period of time.
The juxtaposition of legacy and modern inspiration spawned the idea of this concept watch.
As much as we can do against Hezbollah, as much as we can do against their infrastructure, hoping that that leads to a better agreement and a better ceasefire.
Did the Revolutionary Guards in Iran sink an American destroyer? We have conflicting versions in the Gulf of Oman. Iran claims it hit an American ship, and the United States is denying it. Iran is trying to obtain the card that the world feared. And while the war was supposed to stop the Revolutionary Guards in Iran, now comes the truly worrying warning regarding the Iranian attempt to reach an atomic bomb. All the details are coming up. And is the blockade on Hormuz cracking? This is how the United States is wearing down one of Iran's central cards. I'm Yair Pinto, with me is Mati Shoshani. We're here on Boots on the Ground, and we bring you the whole truth about what's happening in Israel, and also the whole truth about what's happening in our Middle East, in this neighborhood. And today is June 4th. So let's begin, because I want to open with a question. Is the risk that Iran is secretly advancing nuclear weapons higher today than it was before the United States and Israel launched the first military attacks against the Islamic Republic 1 year ago? So, based on new data distributed by the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA is warning member states about the new dangers of nuclear weapons proliferation that are stemming from Iran's large stockpile of uranium enriched to a level that is close to what is required to produce a bomb. And we will get into all the details very short. And meanwhile, after yesterday, the level of attacks between the United States and Iran in the Strait of Hormuz rose again. The Iranian news agency reported that the Iranian Navy attacked an American destroyer in the Sea of Oman. But the United States Central Command is making it clear Iran is lying. And at the same time, Washington is accusing Tehran of attacking Kuwait's airport with drones. So despite all the military activity and all the attacks, are the negotiations still continuing? United States President Donald Trump said that negotiations with Iran are going well, while signing a presidential order that will make it easier to fire federal employees, Trump said about the contacts with Iran. He said it could happen over the weekend. He also was asked whether the ceasefire is still in effect after the attack in Kuwait, and he answered, "There is reason for everything. We hit them pretty hard in the night before, and actually last night also. But they did something. Not a big deal. We handled it. We eliminated it very quickly, as we always do." The American president said that an agreement with Iran could be signed already during the weekend. But pay attention. He added that Iran must not have nuclear weapons and said that anything can happen. Trump told reporters that he prefers not to use military force, but emphasized that most of my people would like us to use it, end quote. The American president also added and made clear,
one of my favorite parts of this job is the people that I work with. We are on the main turnpike. We're all regular people. We're moms, dads. We're in the construction zone. The speed really is probably the biggest issue. Average speed is probably closer to 70, 75. Sometimes it's literally just a plastic cone that is separating us from live traffic. Makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up a little bit. One thing I'd like to ask of the motorist is just to give us a break, slow down. I want to get home and see my wife and kids tonight.
Consistency and skill.
What do you think?
Let's ride.
This is where we belong. This is where we belong.
Who's ready to ride?
This is where we belong. This is where we belong. Found a little home, a place to roam. We are conveyed in time. Caught relief from summer's teeth in the river neath the pines. 'Cause tomorrow's just the name for the memories we can make, and that's alright. In mind, in the morning light will still be guesting. You and I can conquer.
Come on, Dad.
This
Let's
is
go.
where we
Hang on.
belong. This is where we belong.
Where everything has been igniting in recent days.
We could now go for another 2 or 3 weeks in Iran, referring to the military capabilities of the United
The
States.
question now is simple.
Despite Trump's words, according to the Iranian Tasnim news agency, Iran has not given any response to the Americans in recent days.
The American
Look,
response did not
Iran's attacks in the Persian Gulf are meant to extract additional concessions from Trump on the way to an agreement with the United States. This is while the Gulf states are still continuing to take a contained policy towards the attacks. The responses that they may trigger could deteriorate into a full regional war. American media outlets, which are becoming harder and harder to rely on in some of their reports, are revealing a scenario of Trump returning to widespread airstrikes on Iran. According to more leaks from the White House, President Trump told his aides privately that he would consider ending the ceasefire with Iran if Tehran causes the deaths of American soldiers. Look, despite the Iranian threats and the escalation in the Gulf, dozens of oil and gas tankers continue to cross the Strait of Hormuz. According to reports, Washington is allowing the flow of global energy, while at the same time increasing the pressure on Iranian exports. And at the same time, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in a Senate that the American Navy is currently focused on stopping Iranian tankers and merchant ships. United States Central Command, CENTCOM, announced that it disabled one Iranian tanker and that so far it has turned back 122 vessels. Alongside the naval pressure, Iran has significantly reduced oil production in its fields due to the drop in exports and the shortage of storage facilities. According to assessments that are shared in talks between American officials and Gulf states, it will be possible to continue the current pressure framework for at least 3 more months. And while the IDF continues to dismantle the infrastructure of the Hezbollah terrorist organization in southern Lebanon, a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon has been signed, while the murderous terrorist organization Hezbollah, the proxy of Iran, continues to challenge the situation on the ground. Both sides declare that they have no hostile intentions towards each other and agreed to quickly advance pilot areas where the Lebanese army, with the support of the United States, will have exclusive control. The United States stated that the ceasefire is conditional on Hezbollah stopping its fire and on evacuation of all terrorist organizations' operatives north of the Litani River. According to the announcement, both sides will advance the establishment of pilot areas in which the Lebanese army will have exclusive control. Another round of talks is expected to take place in 3 weeks. Israel, for its part, again emphasized in the agreement that the complete cancellation of Hezbollah's attack and the dismantling of the infrastructure throughout Lebanon are a necessary condition for its security. The terrorist organization, which does not recognize the talks at all, is meanwhile silent. But according to the agreement, which speaks about dismantling armed organizations, the Lebanese army will receive exclusive control in the area without the presence of non-state actors. What does that mean? If the terrorist organization decides to raise its head, the IDF will be forced to return to fighting. Meanwhile, the revolutionary guards in Iran are still broadcasting threats towards Israel. If Israel attacks Hezbollah and targets of Hezbollah in Beirut, Iran will respond firmly. This is what Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi said today. So there is a lot ahead of us. So let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, with me is Mati Shoshani. We are here on Boots on the Ground and we bring you the whole truth about what is happening here in Israel and in this war against the Revolutionary Guards in Iran, which is the head of the crumbling axis of evil in the Middle East. And 1 second before we continue, I want to call on you to keep spreading the truth. Share our content with as many people as possible. Click on the subscribe button. Share this video. Let me know when you're watching from, where you're watching from. And search us up on our social media accounts, Yair Pinto and Mati Shoshani, so you can see this world through our eyes behind the scenes. Now, with us is our senior Middle East correspondent, Mati Shoshani, and according to today's publications, could it be that Iran's nuclear danger has actually grown after all the attacks because now the regime understands that without a bomb, it's too vulnerable? Does it make sense to you? Because to me it doesn't make so much sense that after so many bombings, they are closer to reaching a nuclear agreement than they were before.
I think we need to ask ourselves, who's saying that? Who's claiming that they're closer? And if that claim's coming out, it's all from people that are detached from the reality we're living in, or that want to make a political point. And then let's start from the political point. Who has an agenda to say that after, again, let's call it a month of strikes in Iran, where the majority of their nuclear material is buried underground and buried even deeper underground, where their scientists are removed, the heads of the nuclear program are removed, the centrifuges are blown up to pieces, the supply chain is broken, and this is done not once but twice within a single year, twice. Last summer and now in the spring of this year. If someone looks at that and says there's been no damage to the nuclear program, that's insanity. What is true is that the resolve of the Iranian regime to hold on to enriched uranium and to have a bomb, that's probably higher than it ever was. But that's more a dictator's survival skill than it is actually related to the bomb, because what they look at it as a survival tool against foreign influences. Because anyone who has a nuclear bomb, as is the point of a nuclear bomb, well, anyone else thinks twice and 3 times before attacking them, simply because of the fear of, well, nuclear retaliation. That's something that is sort of understandable and obvious. But no, they have much less of a nuclear ability. Israel and the United States have spent decades in holding back their nuclear program, and you need to hand it to them. Iran has tried to reach nuclear capabilities for pushing on 20 years now. Most countries succeed in that time frame. Definitely someone with the pockets and the energy level of the Iranians. They haven't succeeded because of ongoing sabotage, cyber attacks, counterintelligence operations, many assassinations of people in their nuclear program, including unbelievable Mossad operations inside Iran proper. And now during these last 2 wars, both Midnight Hammer last year and this current war, many operations to physically knock out their infrastructure. No, they're not closer to a nuclear bomb. They claim we still have the capability. And that's true. That's where things get tricky. Because if I said, Yael, look, Yael, I'm going to take away from you the ability to produce a television show. I'm going to take your camera and your crew and your edit computer and your access to YouTube, etc., etc. You don't lose your capability to do that. You just have to manufacture new tools to do the same. The same applies to nuclear bomb. The Iranians say, you can take away our enriched uranium, although they don't want to give up the enriched uranium. You can eliminate some of our scientists. You're never going to eliminate all of our scientists. You're never going to take away all of our knowledge in reaching this capability of both enriching uranium, building the blast cap, the bomb part of the nuclear bomb, and of course building ballistic missiles. So it's always a question of time. And again, people love to paint this in these black and white colors. Yes bomb, no bomb. Yes bomb, no bomb. No, it's a multi-year process, multi-billion-dollar process. If you can sabotage it 6 months, and then 3 months later do it again, 12 months later, do it again. They're just spending money and time and money and time. And every time they try, they get pushed back 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps. The guy with the nuclear codes, boom, disappears. The scientist who was in charge of the plant, bang, vaporizes. The shaft where everything is hidden underground, boom, in a pile of rubble. It hurts them, believe me. They've suffered deeply to try to reach a bomb and have nothing to show for it. They have knowledge, but they don't have a bomb. And even when they want to reach a bomb, it will take them time. And I want to say this, we live in this doom and gloom mentality of, oh no, they're going for the bomb. Yale, they've been going for a bomb since me and you were in, well, since I was in high school and you were in junior high. Correcting me yesterday. But
our senior Middle East correspondent, Matti. You need to own it. Own your seniority, Matti.
Anyway, but to the point, they've been going for this for decades, and they don't have a bomb yet. So these statements of, the minute the war ends, they have a bomb again. No, they don't. They don't. They don't immediately have a bomb again. And they'll keep trying. And I need to let's run this scenario. If tomorrow Trump comes out and says, guys, we've reached a deal, and in a week the Iranians start digging up the enriched uranium, and instead of handing it over to the U.S. as the agreement states, and they start traveling across Iran to another bunker that's in a different mountain range to hide it over there. You know what Israel's going to do? We're going to bomb it. We're going to bomb the convoy. Yeah, we're going to bomb that target. We're going to bomb the convoy. The fact that one stage ends and another starts, that doesn't mean that we're not going to prevent them from reaching, nuclear capabilities. It's a forever war against a regime, and people forget this. This is their purpose. Their stated purpose is to destroy 2 Satans. This is them saying, of course, I don't agree with this. Israel and the United States, the great Satan, or the small Satan Israel, the great Satan the United States. They're sworn to do this. They've said a nuclear bomb is the way to do that. What do you think? Because there's an agreement, they'll stop? There were agreements in the past. Did it stop them? Nonsense. People love to say these things. Oh, under Obama, they weren't trying to get a bomb. When there was the JCPOA, they weren't trying to enrich uranium. Guys, you are deluded if you think that. It's absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. You remember what
it's crazy, I agree with you completely, because they think the same thing about the Hezbollah terrorist organization in Lebanon and about Hamas in the Gaza Strip. It's a terrorist organization. It's in the name. That's what they do. They don't do peace agreements. They don't do humanitarian aid. They do terrorism. And then it's like everybody thinks that because somebody agreed to...
Every interaction we have, Finn is involved in almost every single one of them, 99 point something percent, and it's resolving over 7,000 without us touching it at all.
I tried doing insurance myself. Bad idea. I thought I bought low-cost insurance online. Turns out I bought Locust Insurance, which is just a box of buck torches. So I went to Comparion Insurance Agency and learned low cost isn't always best. My local agent helped me understand policy options and found me the right insurance at the right price. At least I don't have to worry about any locusts. Nope, I was wrong.
Run! Don't do insurance yourself. Comparion Insurance Agency.
A paper, then there's going to be peace and nobody will fight anymore. It's just like, doesn't make any sense. It's kind of like putting your head in the sand and thinking something will change.
Exactly. And just to remind people, before this war broke out, we discovered that Iran had enriched uranium. Now, I'm sure the Mossad and Netanyahu and Trump knew about it before we did, but it became public several months before that. And what is the information that comes out? The IAEA, which is the International Agency of Atomic Energy, the agency that had supervisors on the ground in Iran, they come out and say, look, we might have slightly miscalculated. These are the words. and it turns out, and this is like the level of these conversations. The Iranians received, in return for them giving access to these supervisors and stopping their nuclear program, they were given back tens of billions of dollars of funds that were confiscated from them. And this goes back to the Trump era and a bunch of European countries that were part of these pacts. And they said, look, we've stopped the Iranian bomb. Nonsense. The Iranians were working full speed for a bomb under their nose. And with the supervisors on the ground in Iran, suddenly they come out and say, look, we might have slightly miscalculated. We told you they weren't working on a bomb. And the reality is, they have enough enriched uranium for 10 bombs. Okay, this is the level of miscalculation. There is no nuclear military program, and they're about to break forth to fully enriching enough material for 10 nuclear bombs at least. That was a gap in information they had. And that shows you that the Iranians had no trouble at all lying to these countries, lying to the agencies, taking the agreements that they signed, with these huge ceremonies where all the diplomats come with their expensive pens and, and everyone signs the agreement. Oh, job well done. Philippe, job well done. Name another European name. Great job. Look, we stopped the nuclear program in Iran. The Iranians came back home. They took that paper, they blew their nose with it, and they threw it in the trash bin. They didn't even bother enforcing the agreements. And look, Israel was able to stop them from getting into a bomb. The US was able to stop them. British intelligence and probably many others were able to stop them up till now. We'll be able to stop also in the future. I have faith in them.
Yeah, exactly, Mati. And let's go and talk about what's happening in Lebanon, because only yesterday there was a ceasefire agreement that was signed between Israel and Lebanon, which is, just to start with, is funny because we're not fighting Lebanon, but we signed a ceasefire agreement with them. And then you have the actual entity that we're fighting against, which is the Hezbollah terrorist organization, and they're not part of this agreement. On the contrary, they're issuing a statement that this agreement is treachery to the Lebanese people, that they will not abide by it, and they also send suicide drones towards Israel right after the signing of this agreement. So, what's happening in practice in Lebanon? Just let me add another point, is that the Iranian Foreign Ministry keeps threatening that if Israel carry out attacks against Hezbollah targets in Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, then all of the negotiations with the US will collapse and that Iran will retaliate.
Yeah. Oh no. The amazing agreement that's being worked on. That's being worked on. I have trouble not laughing. It's ridiculous. One, there is no real negotiation taking place. I find it funny that people keep talking about this. Look, we're almost there. There's no agreement on anything. All the major pieces are still in complete disagreement. What are we even talking about here? And what are they going to say? We won't open the Strait of Hormuz if you keep fighting in Lebanon? It's not open to begin with. You said
we won't give up our nuclear weapons. You said you won't give them anyway.
It's like, what is the threat here? We'll continue feeding our proxies. You already do it, and you'll do it even if there's an agreement that says you don't. Here's the point about Lebanon. It's even more extreme than what you're saying. It's Israel and Lebanon have a joint enemy. That enemy is called the Hezbollah terrorist organization. That is a imperialistic terrorist organization paid for, sent, funded, and trained by a foreign country more than 2,000 kilometers away. It's not the United States. It's not the UK, not the traditional empires. You know who it is? The Iranians, the Persian Empire, who's once again raised its evil head, but instead of the biblical type, now it's an empire of terrorism and proxies and suffering and death. There's no upside to their attempts at being an empire. There's no positivity. There's no trade. All it is death, destruction, and gloom to everyone they touch. The Hezbollah, first and foremost, are enemies of the Lebanese people, not the Israeli people. They've killed, assassinated the head of the Lebanese state. They've threatened to do so also to Joseph Aoun, the current head of the Lebanese state, elected by the Lebanese people. They've threatened to assassinate him if he dares sign an agreement with Israel. That's not what a political party does. That's what a foreign terrorist entity does. And they've done so repeatedly. They've killed people within Lebanon. They've murdered minorities within the country. And then they also fight against Israel. That's sort of the hierarchy of what they do. First, they destroy their neighborhood. Then they come and try to ruin also the neighbor's house. And they've done so repeatedly. Israel's fighting against them in Lebanon. And bizarrely enough, suddenly the Iranians have something that they agree about in their negotiations. We want to make sure that also Lebanon is part of the ceasefire. The non-existent ceasefire, the ceasefire that Trump says is just a moderate, what did he say? A moderate removal or reduction in the level of fire. That amazing ceasefire, they want to make sure that Lebanon is part of it. Well, sorry guys, but no. Israel will continue fighting in Lebanon. Although what people are reporting Trump and Netanyahu are still good friends. Israel and the United States are still communicating. And Israeli forces continue to fight against Hezbollah because Hezbollah hasn't stopped fighting. You can't have a ceasefire when only one side has a ceasefire. That's just called wanting to be inflicted pain. There's no point in it. Hezbollah hasn't stopped fighting. They continue launching drones, missiles, rockets, and placing IEDs, trying to reach Israeli IDF posts. And if the IDF was not inside Lebanon, they'd be on the fence trying to enter into Israel. It's a ridiculous conversation altogether. The IDF should destroy Hezbollah. The Lebanese army should join forces with the IDF in destroying Hezbollah. That's what should happen. In other countries, the brave French government that loves to talk about how much they want to bring peace to Lebanon, why don't you send some special forces and help remove Hezbollah, this disease of an organization that has destroyed so much of that country? Why not you send some help to fight these people? Because you know what the Americans have? They have special forces there. This is not news, it's all over the internet. Israel has forces there. We're fighting the scorn of the Middle East. Why not other countries come and help remove Hezbollah? Believe me, there will be no point in the IDF being in Lebanon if Hezbollah is gone. No problem whatsoever. Israel has enough of beautiful nature and enough beautiful mountains and enough of a varying scenery. We don't need more terrain, although Lebanon's a beautiful country. We'll give it back to the Lebanese happily if they have a government and an army that can prevent Hezbollah from continuing to attack and to fight us. That is a reality. And despite this, I've been watching some of what's been going on in the news in the US. It's a bizarre conversation of Israel should stop fighting in Lebanon. We can't. The Hezbollah keeps attacking us. Tell them to stop and there'll be peace. Remove them from Lebanon and there'll be long-lasting peace. That's the equation.
Yeah, it keeps going back to the same very absurd demand. Okay, stop the war, and then but they're attacking us. Why? How can we stop if they keep attacking us? You want us to just let them kill us? And that's the situation. So I hope really that this new pilot that is about to be tested in some areas in South Lebanon, in which the Lebanese government will be the only one with power in a certain area, and Israel will not be in it, and the Hezbollah terrorist organization is not supposed to be in it. We'll see how it works, and I'm sure that the IDF force won't be far away to react and to help the Lebanese armed forces when the Hezbollah terrorists actually come and launch attacks against them. I think that's what's going to happen.
I hope that's the right thing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Mati. We'll see you again in just a few more hours. So don't miss our second update of Boots on the Ground. I'm Yair Pinto. This is Mati Shoshani. Make sure to check us out on our social media accounts. And if you haven't subscribed yet to TV in Israel, this is your opportunity now. Pause this video, hit the subscribe button so you never miss another update of what's happening in Israel, and you'll know how to pray for the situation. Again, thank you very much, Mati Shoshani.
Thank you, Yair.
At Blue Seal Farm and Home, we believe in the kind of life that's built around family, community, and the passions that make every day meaningful. Whether you're raising backyard animals, growing a garden, or sharing your heart with horses, we're here with hand-picked products and local support you can count on. We're proud to be part of a connected community, neighbors helping neighbors, sharing knowledge, and celebrating the lifestyles we all love. Because here, it's not just about what you do, it's about who you do it with. Your best life gets better here. Visit BlueSealStores.com for a location near you.
At the same time, Iran launched suicide drones.
Did you know that Sutherland Felt is more than a supplier of felt materials? They own and operate their own industrial sewing division, Sutherland Sewing, located in Madison Heights, Michigan. For over 100 years, Sutherland Sewing has been producing high-quality sewn components tailored to precise specifications of clients across all professional industries. Let our experienced sewing team partner with you to create your next industrial project. Check out our gallery of capabilities at SutherlandSewing.com.
And let's get back to the situation of what's happening here in this land, because there are multiple areas that we need to discuss. So, just giving you another option to hit the subscribe button here on TV in Israel. Leave us a comment when you're watching from, and we invite you to take part in something amazing that we are pioneering here in the northern parts of the country, something that is rooted deep in the land and in our hearts. I'm talking about the Rebuild Israel campaign that is continuing. It's bringing life back to Israel's north, along Israel's northern border, an area that is now under war, under fire by the Hezbollah terrorist rockets and suicide drones. We are planting an apple orchard. Yes. Why? Because there was an apple orchard before this war began, and it was destroyed by the terror rockets of Hezbollah. We want to show the terrorists that we're not going anywhere. We are rebuilding. We are replanting. We want the population of Israel to get back to their homes on the northern communities of Israel. The farmers, the apple picking people, everybody to get back, the children. That's our goal. When they try to destroy us, we prove that we are stronger because God gave us this land. So, this apple orchard is more than just agriculture. It creates jobs for the local families. It helps the communities return and rebuild. And it sends a clear message to the people of Israel that you are not alone, because you have millions of Bible-believing Christians with you. That's you. So when you donate, you're not just giving, you are rebuilding. Your support puts trees in the ground, it restores livelihoods, and it transforms a land that is scarred by war into a land that grows again. This is how renewal takes root. This is how Israel rebuilds after war. Join us in restoring the north and strengthening the future of the land of Israel. You can go now to tbn.org/rebuildisrael. Again, that's tbn.org/rebuildisrael, or call 800-804-7895. Rebuild the land, restore hope, bless the future, plant a tree in Israel. Now let's get back to the news, because the Iranian claim that they hit an American military vessel in the Gulf of Oman. What's going on with this claim? Because according to the version that is published in Tehran, an American vessel approached Iran's territorial waters, and the Iranian Navy struck the command and control center on board the destroyer. Washington responded immediately, saying that this is a lie. The military assets of the United States continue to fly, sail, and operate safely and without interruption. So what's really happening here? Is Iran trying to present a victory that never happened? Or is it testing how far it can stretch America's nails without breaking the ceasefire? And that's exactly where we need to begin this morning. Because in the Middle East, the shot itself is not always the story. Sometimes the story is who reports that it was fired, who denies it, who stays silent, and who tries to turn the fog of war into a tool in the negotiations. In this case, Tehran did not claim that it hit an American destroyer. It claimed that the Americans violated navigation rules in the Strait of Hormuz and struck Iranian commercial vessels in the Gulf of Oman. From its perspective, that was just justification to present a military response. But the American response was unusually sharp. Not diplomatic language, not "we are checking," not "we have no information." The United States Central Command said, very simply, Iran is lying. And that matters because in the Persian Gulf right now, there are two wars taking place. One war of missiles, drones, interceptions, and precision strikes. And another war, a war of perception over the question of who controls the pace. Iran wants to show that it is still capable of threatening American vessels, even after months of heavy strikes on its infrastructure. The United States wants to show that its navy is not deterred, that the skies are open, that the sea is open, and that the pressure on Tehran has not been broken. While the two versions collide in the Gulf of Oman, another event already showed that the situation is far from calm. Kuwait was hit by a serious attack. Iranian drones struck Kuwait International Airport, shut down the air activity, caused heavy damage, killed one person, and wounded more than 60 others. Iran tried to calm and claim that the damage was actually caused by a fallen American interceptor. Here too, the Americans rejected that version completely. From their perspective, this was a deliberate, calculated, and unjustified Iranian attack against a civilian target. And this is where Trump's major dilemma begins. On the one hand, he wants to deal with Iran. He says the negotiations are going well, and even hints that a breakthrough could come as soon as this weekend. On the other hand, he cannot appear as someone who accepts Iranian attacks on American partners in the Gulf, on civilian airports, and on American vessels, even if some of Iran's claims are denied. And that is why the Americans are now operating on a very thin line. They're responding militarily, but they're not declaring that the war has returned in full force. They're striking targets in southern Iran and on the Qasem Island, but they are still keeping the diplomatic channel open. They say that the ceasefire is holding, but Trump has already made it clear in close conversations, if Iran kills American soldiers, he will consider ending the pause and returning to combat. That's not a small statement, because it draws Washington's real red lines. Not every drone will collapse the agreement. Not every missile will break the table. But the killing of American soldiers could change the entire picture within minutes.
I don't know if other people have seen it. I've seen several interviews with and that shows you that here in America
you can get anything you want on the internet. So why are we still taking gen eds like this? At Sophia Learning, we have a solution. Sophia offers online, college-level courses that are designed to transfer for credit, helping thousands of people graduate. Use Sophia and get ahead.
It's going to be a while before there's a...
Iran understands this, and that's why it is operating with a dangerous method. Enough fire to rebuild and remind everyone that it is still here, but not enough fire to force Trump to strike with full power. The attacks in Kuwait, the threats against Bahrain, the claims around the Gulf of Oman, and the messages about the Strait of Hormuz, all of these are part of the same equation. Tehran is trying to charge a price for every day without an agreement. They want to hurt the markets, pressure the Gulf states, and make the White House understand that time is also working against it. In the Gulf, the Arab states understand this very well. Kuwait condemned the attack. Other countries condemned it. Qatar and the Emiratis are watching closely. The Emir of Qatar has already spoken with Trump about the regional developments. But none of these countries is rushing to open a direct front against Iran. They want American protection, but they also fear a wider escalation. They want the straits and the shipping lanes to remain open, but they do not want to become the next target of the Revolutionary Guard. And that is exactly where Iran is trying to play. It does not need to occupy a country. It needs to create a doubt. Doubt about airlines, doubt amongst the maritime insurance companies, doubt about the Gulf states, doubt inside the White House. And while all of this is happening at sea and in the air, the truly alarming warning arrives. The nuclear issue. The war was supposed to stop Iran's nuclear program, but now the IAEA is warning that oversight of Iran's nuclear material has weakened in a dangerous way. Before the strikes, Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium was under weekly inspection by inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency. Today, that is no longer the case. The inspectors have still not returned to the damaged sites at Fordo, Isfahan, and Natanz. That is where more than 440 kilograms of highly enriched uranium were last seen. This is alongside thousands of kilograms of low-enriched materials. The most troubling sentence in the report is not a dramatic sentence. It is a dry one. The agency cannot draw a conclusion regarding this nuclear material. In other words, the world knows that there was material. The world knows there was oversight. The world knows there were strikes. But the world no longer knows with full certainty where all the material is, what its condition is, and whether part of it was moved somewhere else. Trump still says that Iran's nuclear program has been destroyed. The White House insists that the facilities were badly damaged and that Iran is much further from a bomb than it was before this war began. But even if that is true operationally, there is another problem here. What cannot be checked cannot be verified. And Rafael Grossi, the head of the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, said it very clearly. An agreement that cannot be verified is a bad agreement. And that is why the negotiations with Iran have become so complicated. Trump wants the uranium. He said that he wants to obtain Iran's enriched material in the near future. In the American administration, they're talking about the possibility of removing the material from Iran or turning it inside Iran into something unusable under international supervision. But Iran wants to preserve its gains. It wants sanctions relief. It wants shipping lanes open. It wants money. And it wants to come out of the war able to tell its own public that it did not surrender. And before we continue, this is exactly the time to join us. If you want to understand the Middle East and Israel as it really happens from the ground, make sure to hit the subscribe button here on our TBN Israel YouTube channel, where you can watch boots on the ground happen and know how to pray for the situation. Now, let's go to the northern front, because while the Americans are managing the pressure against Iran, Washington announced a framework for a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. On paper, this is a significant development. Israel and Lebanon agreed to implement a ceasefire on the condition that Hezbollah holds its fire and removes all of its operatives from the area south of the Litani River. In addition, the sides agreed to move quickly towards pilot zones, where the Lebanese army would receive exclusive control over the area without the presence of non-state armed actors. In simple terms, if this happens, Hezbollah is supposed to leave the area where for years it built the direct threat infrastructure against the communities of northern Israel. But that is actually the problem, because Hezbollah was not in the room. Hezbollah did not officially recognize the talks. And Hezbollah has still not proven that it is willing to give up its most important military asset against Israel. That is why Israel is treating this agreement with great caution. Only yesterday, the IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir said at the naval base in Haifa that our forces do not have a ceasefire in Lebanon. The IDF initiates, operates, and strikes every threat and makes full use of the freedom of action defined for it in order to remove dangers from Israeli civilians and from our forces. And this is not said in the air. It was not said on the air, because near the Beaufort Castle in South Lebanon, the mountain ridge that the IDF just captured from Hezbollah, a force of the Golani Brigade combat team under the command of Division 36 identified 2 armed Hezbollah terrorists at a distance of about 150 meters. Within a short time, the circle was closed. A Golani tank struck the terrorists, and afterwards, soldiers from the Air Force UAV unit struck them and eliminated them. This is exactly the gap between agreements in Washington and the reality in southern Lebanon. Because on the map, they talk about lines. On the ground, they talk about an armed terrorist group that was found 150 meters from our IDF forces. And at the same time, the Iftach Brigade destroyed dozens of Hezbollah infrastructures using around 6 tons of explosives within minutes. These are not just buildings. These are positions, storage sites, routes, and areas that Hezbollah built in order to return from there to fire against Israel. So if the new agreement is tested,
safe driving rules! Safe driving rule number 32. The speed limit is for emergencies only. I stay 10 miles an hour under at all times. If they're honking behind you, you're doing it right.
It's official. The Jersey Mike's chicken salad sub is back by popular demand.
Guess it's time to unfreeze Danny.
Hey,
I said keep me frozen until the chicken salad sub is back.
It is back.
Is it still made fresh in store and loaded with slow roasted all white meat chicken?
Yep, still the same.
I can't move my arms. How long was I in there? 60 years?
About 11 months.
The chicken salad sub is back for $8.95 for a limited time only at Jersey Mike's.
For a while, Uda was only in his role for less than a week. And I'm sorry for laughing, but Israel threatened them in that.
The test will not only be whether the Lebanese government signs it or not. The test will be whether the Lebanese army truly enters the area, whether Hezbollah truly withdraws, and whether Iran truly gives up the ability to use Israel's northern border as a bargaining chip against Trump. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has already signaled where Tehran is looking. He warned that if Israel strikes in Beirut, Iran will respond firmly. That means that even when the Americans are trying to separate Lebanon from Iran, Iran is trying to connect them again. For Tehran, Hezbollah is not only a terrorist organization in Lebanon, it is a strategic lever. It is the way to keep Israel under pressure, Washington under tension, and the Gulf states afraid of a wider escalation. But there is another crack in the Iranian axis, and it is coming especially from Iraq. Two powerful militias supported by Iran, Ashaib al-Haq and the Imam Ali brigades, announced that they will begin handling over weapons to the Iraqi authorities, giving the weapons to the Iraqi authorities. One of them has already established a committee to map its fighters, its weapons, and its equipment. The other spoke about the need to build a strong state with full sovereignty where weapons are held only by the state itself. That does not mean that the Iranian axis will collapse tomorrow morning. Kataib Hezbollah and Harakat el-Nujbar still oppose the agreement, and they link the issue to the presence of foreign forces in Iraq. But the very fact that major militias are being forced to talk about handing over their weapons under American pressure and under the new Iraqi government that wants a monopoly on force teaches something important. The war against Iran is not taking place only above Natanz or only in the Strait of Hormuz. It is also taking place inside Baghdad, in southern Lebanon, in the ports of the Gulf, and in the rooms where decisions are made about who holds weapons and who is forced to put them down. This is the great battle of this morning. Iran is trying to show that it can still set a price. The United States is trying to show that it can still manage the war, an agreement, and a regional order at the same time. Israel is trying to make sure that no one sells its temporary quiet instead of real security. In Lebanon, Iraq, and the Gulf states, they're being required to prove whether they are sovereign states or only areas where Iran operates other people. In the end, all of these stories connect to one point. Is the pressure on Iran breaking apart its axis, or is it only pushing Iran to use it in a more dangerous way? And the question now is simple. Will Donald Trump manage to reach an agreement before one missile, one drone, or one mistake in the Gulf drags everyone back into a full-scale war? Let me know what you think about this in the comments. So, in the meantime, keep spreading the truth, help us reach more people, hit the subscribe button on TBN Israel YouTube channel, and above all, unite in prayer for the situation. Yeah, this is a spiritual war. We need your help in praying. We need your help in asking God to intervene, to give wisdom to our leaders, to your leaders. Your prayers for protection for the IDF soldiers in South Lebanon. They're greatly appreciated. I can feel your prayers here. It gives me and our people strength. And above all, keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem. And we'll see you again in just a few hours.
Did you know that motorcyclists are 27 times more likely to die in a motor vehicle crash than passenger vehicle occupants? Motorcycles can be hard to see. We need to look twice to save a life. Let's watch for motorcycles and share the road. Please remember to leave extra room when following motorcycles, and to check in your rearview mirrors and blind spots, and to be extra careful when making left-hand turns. Remember, your actions can save lives. The Maine Bureau of Highway Safety reminds you to look twice to save a life.
The criticism from the help did shape how you started to approach this story and write this story.
After many false starts writing this story, I got fired. My publisher fired me because it had taken me so long.
Because you were still operating out of fear.
Yeah, there's something, I guess, scrappy inside of me that, if you kick me when I'm down, I'm gonna come out of that a little bit wiser and a little bit braver.
You're still gonna write the book even though you don't have a contract.
I don't give up easily, I gotta say. I'm really stubborn. So when I got fired, it kind of put a fire under my ass to prove them wrong.
This success of this book is going to be the best revenge for the publisher that fired you. I can't even believe it.
It was fun to write.
It was fun to write.
It was. It was painful and it was fun.
Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by the Oprah Podcast. A warm welcome to you all. I know millions of you read The Help, Catherine Stockett's 2009 debut novel, which became a global phenomenon, selling over 15 million copies. Not many authors get to say that in their lifetime, not in 3 lifetimes. Back in 2011, the actress Octavia Spencer won an Oscar for her role in the hit film The Help, based on the book. And now Catherine Stockett's long-awaited second novel, The Calamity Club, is finally here. And I know so many of you are going to devour this book. And it's already, I can tell you, runaway bestseller. I knew that was going to happen. And I'm thrilled to be sitting on my front porch with the author, Catherine Stockett. I know you prefer everyone call you Kitty, so I will do the same. Kitty, welcome. So glad to be with you.
So glad to be here.
Let me just say, I fell in love with this coming-of-age story. And this is what I realized when I read this. I thought all of my favorite books are coming-of-age stories, beginning with Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye, of course, Celie in The Color Purple. Maya Angelou's story is a coming-of-age story. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and of course, To Kill a Mockingbird and Scout. There's something about a young girl's voice coming of age that speaks to me so deeply because I was a Southern girl coming of age. And obviously, because you've done such an incredible job with this book, that also spoke to you. This is a story of a group of bold, unbreakable women who overcome hardships to reclaim their lives. The love between them was just, I was crying one minute and laughing really out loud to myself the next. And then cheering. I think it's both heartbreaking and it's also hilarious at the same time. So you said writing a second novel in the shadow of The Help was daunting.
Living life and raising my daughter as a divorced woman. But I think it took me so long.
Her and some lady are having a heartfelt conversation.
You might be wondering how I got here. All I needed was paper towels. But one deal led to another. That's it. And another. By the time I spotted the paper towels, my hands were full. Ocean State job lot. Everything you didn't know you needed.
How long has it been here, Celeste? You need to get over your shit, soldier.
I like it here. It's safe.
He hasn't even come out.
Truth Social, and added that is what most of the agreement is about. So it's important that I also explain. From what currently emerges from the agreement with Iran, it contains a lot of polished and very American wording. But in practice, according to the way that the White House presents it, this is a letter of surrender to the Revolutionary Guards of Iran and an agreement to establish a new reality. The United States is in a position of power in this story, and the very management of the agreement is meant to prevent further killing and destruction. At least that is how the American president explains this move. Trump toughened the framework conditions for the agreement and sent the proposed changes to Iran for review. According to the report, the emerging framework is supposed to end the military campaign of the United States and Israel against Iran, and in return, the Iranians will remove the blockade that they imposed on the Strait of Hormuz. The sources did not clarify what changes were in inserted into the wording of the agreement, but according to two of them, Trump expressed concerns about parts dealing with the release and the unfreezing of the Iranian funds. The sources added that in the past, Trump sharply criticized former President Barack Obama for a similar move as part of the nuclear agreement that was signed more than a decade ago. The Fox News agency, which reports on behalf of the Revolutionary Guards, reported that Iranian military forces fired missiles from the south of the country towards targets in the Strait of Hormuz. The Sabrin News agency, which is affiliated with the Revolutionary Guards also, reported that the missiles were launched towards the strait from the direction of Bushehr. The report stated that the fire was aimed at 4 United States ships, including commercial ships, which the Iranians claim violated the regulations that they set for passage through the strait. And inside Iran, it seems that the division is intensifying. According to a report in Iran International, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian asked to resign in a sharp letter to Mustafa Khamenei, claiming that the Revolutionary Guards had taken over the centers of power and excluded the government from decision-making. The regime denies this and says Pezeshkian did not resign. The rumors are meant to divide and to serve the Mossad and the CIA. The head of the United Nations Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, agreed that Kazakhstan expressed official willingness to receive and safely store on its territory Iran's enriched uranium stockpiles, which are the central point of the dispute in these talks. And in Lebanon, the IDF continues intense fighting in southern Lebanon against the Hezbollah terrorist organization. At the moment, Iran is refusing to sign a ceasefire agreement with the United States without a full Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon. While Trump gave Netanyahu backing to expand the military operation, France is warning of disaster, and the political pressure around Lebanon and the Lebanese area is increasing. Hamas is following the contacts for an agreement between the United States and Iran with concern, and fears that regional calm would come at the expense of Gaza. According to their assessment, the expected agreement will remove most of the strategic restrictions from Israel, leave Gaza outside of the agreement, and allow the expansion of military pressure on the Gaza Strip. I'm Yair Pinto, with me is Mati Shoshani, and we are here on Boots on the Ground. We bring you the whole truth about what is happening in Israel and about the war against the Revolutionary Guards in Iran, which is the head of the crumbling axis of evil in the Middle East. In 1 second before we begin, I want to call on you to continue spreading the truth. Share our content with as many people as possible. Click the subscribe button. Most importantly, do not forget to look for me, Yair Pinto, and for Mati Shoshani on our social media platforms in order to get our view through our eyes of what it's like to live here in Israel and on this world. Our senior Middle East affairs correspondent, Mati Shoshani. In the Middle East, sometimes the very fact that two sides continue talking while they're shooting is not a contradiction, but a method of operation. How do you read this right here? Are Iran and the United States using fire to set the price of the agreement and to progress their own agenda in the negotiations?
I don't know, we're in a really bizarre situation. Iran is an anomaly. Iran is not a Libya Gaddafi. It's not a Iraq under Saddam Hussein. It's not even a Assad Syria. It's a country with a government. Unlike what people think, it's not a simple, just dictatorship. They're a complex dictatorship with a full-on government with a substantial economy, even though it's heavily based on oil exports, but it's still a substantial economy, substantial cash reserves, and a much more robust mechanism than most of these other countries. So in the past, when we were negotiating with these other countries, there was one clear leadership, and it was very clear that if you knocked out one person in that leadership, the system fell. That's the case when Israel signed peace agreements with Egypt back in the late 70s. That was the case when we signed peace agreements with Jordan, in 92. That was the case when we normalized relationships with the UAE in the Abraham Accords. Clear leadership, a clear hierarchy within the country. Iran's a whole different animal altogether. one, they're just a huge country, both in population and in geographical space. Two, their government system is built in a very different way. It's not one singular leadership. There's a whole lot of redundancy within that government. They built that government expecting assassinations, expecting several people to be eliminated, and therefore the negotiation with them, this isn't a new thing. It's been far more complex. I mean, the nomenclature about the Iranians, that they're these great tradesmen, bazaarmen, who know how to haggle a deal. And I think it's, as someone who comes from that background, I think it's somewhat true. These people know how to negotiate. They're sophisticated negotiators. And when you see the way they're working versus the Americans and others, it's just a separate entity altogether. More than that, I can't think of another example.
And you're trying.
I'm trying.
Let's have that thinking going on.
Of an entity within the Middle East, or even outside of the Middle East, that has so successfully built proxies. And you think so? The only example I would come up with is Soviet Russia. So that the former Soviet Union built this network of semi-proxies that would fight on their behalf, and they would equip them. Just compare those two, and you understand how hard it is to negotiate with the likes of Iran. So Iran is unlike anything else that we've negotiated with. It's not a single king like the Saudis. It's not a single, dictator that can be eliminated and the government topples and falls apart, such as the case in other countries during the Arab Spring and after it. And more so, they have really built their system around this prolonged conflict. So yes, the negotiation that's taking place right now, on every level, is exactly that. It's a public negotiation that's taking place under fire. The US government has learned the lesson, and they don't stop the war during the negotiation. They just say, we'll do what we want, we'll continue firing when we want, call it a ceasefire, don't call it a ceasefire, we're doing sort of what works for us, and when you're ready to come around to an agreement, we'll be there. That's what they've been saying since the get-go, essentially. But Iran does the same thing. They play this game of ambiguity. They're there when it comes to, wanting to talk. Anytime it seems like Trump is too angry, is about to lose it, is about to unleash, whatever threat that he was planning, they suddenly say, no, we were willing to negotiate, we're actually in agreement, we're actually talking, etc. And when they see that focus is elsewhere, or that they can sort of use a crack in leadership, they'll fire a missile at a ship traveling through, they'll have some kind of skirmish with US ships. So it's both, as you say. It's a negotiation that's taking place under fire. But I think you really have to hand it to the Iranians. Iran is a different animal, a different creature altogether. It's not something that we've dealt with in the past. The only comparison I can think of that would be effective is the former Soviet Union, in the sense of having a almost half semi-global reach of influence in other countries. No other country in the Middle East has been able to do that. China, in its vast influence of financial networks, doesn't have the same military reach that Iran does. And when you think about that from that perspective, Iran has been a very successful model of spreading doom and gloom. And I wish only that government would have focused on something more effective for their own people, on financial growth, on education, on startups, instead of on death and destruction. But that's theirs to deal with. That's not on us. But yes, it's a complex situation. And there are two things. They're both negotiating under fire. Two, as we say every day, this negotiation could end only with fire and not with negotiation. It could be a complete flare-up the next day. And the third thing is just remember how different Iran is, how robust the government it is compared to others, how substantial their leadership is, how much they've invested, and they really are rich when it comes to financial assets, especially oil. When you look at that, they've spent a lot of money over a lot of time building the mechanisms of power that is what is keeping them in power right now. Buying thousands of speedboats that cost money, training and equipping hundreds of thousands of soldiers that cost money, spreading proxy forces around the Middle East that takes time and money, and they've had both. So it makes sense and it takes a long time to break down such an influence. It's not surprising that the negotiation is prolonged. And I'd say this in the favor of the Trump administration. For once, it seems that the US and others are not giving in to Iranian demands of meeting them halfway. There's very clear demands. You or give up the nuclear plan, the ballistic, the proxies, the sanctioned invasion, or we go back to war. There is no middle ground. There's no half nuclear bomb. There's no half ballistic missile. There's no only half of our proxies. Stop being the let's call it the continental level problem that you have been, and go back to being a normal country, or else. That's the nature of the relationship right now. It might lead to another circle of war, of violence and conflict, but it might lead to an agreement. One way or another, it's going in the right direction, versus signing a bad deal with Iran. That's sadly the reality we're living in.
We're not talking about signing a deal. The president of Iran just resigned from his position earlier today. So who is capable of actually signing this agreement? Mustafa is like in a bunker, underneath a bunker, inside an undisclosed area in a mountain. Nobody can reach him. Like by the time the messenger reaches the agreement, the whole deal will be already different. So who can actually sign this deal? Yeah, this guy. This is Mustafa, the son of the former supreme leader that's now hiding in a bunker since basically the war began.
Okay, are we allowed to joke and say that he's possibly hiding in several bunkers? Because we don't know what his actual state is. But in reality, yes, this is a huge challenge, in the sense that it's not clear who exactly is in leadership in Iran. And I'll say this, there's two ways to look at this. One, the Iranians have done this in the past. One of the oldest tricks in court is, the defendant will fire his lawyer halfway through the trial. Why do they do it? To draw out time. Let's say I've had a fundamental disagreement, or the lawyer will say the client didn't pay. It's usually half true, and then they need to hire a new lawyer, and he has to examine all the documents, and it takes 60, 90, 120 days to really get on top of things and continue. That might be the case here. Did Pezeshkian really resign because he's frustrated? I don't think so. That's not how the Iranian regime works. Did he have a phone call with him and said, look, this might be the best thing from a PR perspective, from a negotiation perspective? I find that to be quite likely. That they did this as a PR stunt. Yes, there seem to be several voices here that are talking, not necessarily an agreement, but I think it's just an expansion of what previously existed in Iran. We interviewed a week and a half ago Benny Sapti, who's an Iranian-born expert on Iran, and he said repeatedly, Iran, the regime is weaker than previously anticipated, previously known. You just wait and see how they might be falling apart. It might just be a question of time. Are we watching that unfold in front of our eyes? Is Pezeshkian the first out of several? Maybe. Is this just a PR spin in which they're just trying to draw out time, and now they need to find another president, and he needs to learn the material, and he lost the phone number of Witkoff, and now he can't answer? I'm joking, but it is possible that this is all a big bluff on behalf of the Iranian regime, and they've done these kind of things in the past. They've played games of sending one representative only to say he doesn't actually represent us. This guy is the one to talk to. They play these stalling and negotiation games, and they've done so many times in the past. Is this more of that? Probably. Is there actually a rift within the leadership in Iran? Absolutely. That's very, very clear that between the IRGC, the Ayatollahs, and other factions within the government or the country, they're not all in agreement. Was that also the case before this war started? Probably to a lesser degree, but definitely there are tensions there. And I think that's really the underlying issue here is it a question of time, or do these tensions live in some kind of harmony for an extended period beyond what we can really comprehend or understand? We don't really know, and sadly, I think there rarely are signs of a regime falling apart or coming to terms with their defeat. And usually you only know a day after it happens. Sadly, that's the case in most regimes, and specifically someone as complex and large as Iran, that would likely be the case with them.
Yeah, let's move to what's happening in Lebanon, because more and more aerial strikes of the Hezbollah terrorist organization are taking place against the Israeli communities that are close to the border, against the IDF forces that are positioned all inside South Lebanon, and it seems like everything is intensified. And this is one day after the IDF captured a very strategic location and outpost that IDF was stationed there back before 2000, and now is in there again. So this is like history repeating itself of the IDF needing to be present deep inside Lebanon in order to to protect the Israeli communities. So this is a very tall and strategic mountain rig, and the IDF now is in control of it so that we can spot the attempts to launch rockets, drones in advance. But looks like Hezbollah doesn't like that, so they're launching more and more rockets at Israel. Or is this something related to Iran altogether? Because the negotiations are at this kind of stalemate moment, maybe as Israel is trying to advance in Lebanon, Hezbollah is also trying to carry out attacks because of orders they receive from Iran.
I think it's both, Yael. Israel and Iran and Hezbollah, of course. We all realize there's some kind of ticking, clock here that's going to run out of time eventually. And when it does, we're going to have a ceasefire on hand. So Israel looks at this and says, let's gain as much territory as we can versus Hezbollah, not the Lebanese government, but against the Hezbollah terrorists in Lebanon. Hezbollah looks at that and says, well, look, one way or another there's going to be a ceasefire. Let's cause maximum damage to the IDF and to Israeli civilian population. They do that. And Iran does the same thing. They probably are pushing Hezbollah as much as they can. We know as a fact that they've been doing the same in Judea and Samaria through many different terrorist movements, same in the Gaza Strip. They're trying to do whatever they can, whatever damage is possible before time runs out. Because, ultimately it is a question of time. One way or another, there will be a ceasefire, first in Iran or first in Lebanon. It doesn't really matter. One way or another. The mission is a little more complicated. It's not just fighting against Hezbollah. It's also a question of stopping two different types of munitions. One, which is an emerging and highly dangerous threat, which is the fiber optic drones, where in the past they were launching rockets, but these are unguided systems, and they were launching some slightly longer range rockets that had some kind of guidance, but again, they're not pinpoint accurate. Now they're firing a bunch of drones, and the drones are fiber optic controlled. They're very hard to stop. The IDF has taken, relatively speaking, a substantial amount of injuries and casualties within Lebanon fighting against them in a war that was, for the most part, very low in its injury and casualty count until the emergence of the fiber optic drone. More so, Hezbollah has been launching a much larger number of projectiles, both rockets and drones, at Israeli communities inside Israel proper in this last week of operations in Lebanon. And as you said, yes, we've taken over the Bufol Ridge, which is this big ridge with a historic landmark, which is this big, medieval castle on top of it that the IDF used to possess until we left unilaterally, by the way, in late 2000, under then Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who ran under, and you need to realize this at home, how much Israel was trying to avoid war. We withdrew from Lebanon because our public had enough of fighting against Hezbollah in Lebanon. We did so without an agreement in the past. By the way, we did also the same in the Gaza Strip under a different prime minister, a right-wing prime minister, Ariel Sharon. So again, people forget the history of this. Israel has fought tooth and nail and hard not to be at war with these countries, and we're sucked in time and time again to fight against the same adversaries, because unless you change the DNA of that nation, unless you change the DNA of those entities, you will continue fighting the same war time and time again. And in simplicity, in layman's terms, until there is a diplomatic long-term solution for the question, for the issue of Hezbollah in Lebanon, that is the Lebanese government replacing Hezbollah, will continue fighting Hezbollah. The only long-term solution, both there and in the Gaza Strip, is someone replacing the terrorists. Is Hezbollah being pushed out by the Lebanese government and Lebanese fighting forces? And is Hamas being pushed out by international organizations or possibly other Muslim governments that will replace their regime? That is the only long-term solution for this case. And yes, as you say, Yael, there is a countdown. We're not sure where it's going to end, but we know it's coming down the pipeline sometime soon, where eventually the war in Lebanon will end, and we want to be able to set whatever status quo exists in the best way possible for Israel, the farthest lines within the Shia areas in Lebanon, as much as we can do against Hezbollah, as much as we can do against their infrastructure, hoping that that leads to a better agreement and a better ceasefire ultimately.
Yeah, definitely, Mati. Well, and we need to remind our viewers that this is a war that's affecting real people now in the northern communities of Israel. There is no education, if you are studying, it's only in an area that has like a bomb shelter big enough to house all the children, and then also maybe remote studying via Zoom. And the situation is very hard. So I would say pray for the children of the northern communities of Israel. That's number one. To pray for the IDF soldiers, and then also pray for wisdom to our leaders to find really a strategic solution, a long-term solution, other than continuing kind of the same method of having boots on the ground to protect us. So thank you very much, Mati, and we'll see Mati Shoshani with us later on in our second report of the day, and you can always check him out on his social media platforms, Mati Shoshani, on all the platforms. See you again this evening, Mati.
Thank you, Yael.
So thank you very much, Mati Shoshani. That certainly helped us better understand what we are dealing with. And to all of you, continue spreading the truth.
And the best part about all this is, y'all, they can't touch me. Y'all wanna know why? Because I done told the whole world that I'm God.
This was supposed to be a simple welfare check for a popular rapper who had suddenly began acting irrationally and posting disturbing threats online. But nobody realized how far the situation would escalate as SWAT teams attempted to force him out of the house while the internet watched the incident live.
My hand up! My hand up! No! My hand up!
It began on February 7th, 2026, when the ex-girlfriend of a 32-year-old famous American rapper, Richard Colbert, requested that Plantation police escort her out of the house, informing authorities that he had been acting irrational and belligerent due to a suspected mental health episode. Popularly known by his stage names I Heart Memphis and I Love Memphis, Richard rose to fame after releasing his debut single, Hit the Quan, on July 4th, 2015. Which made it onto the Billboard Hot 100 and eventually peaked at number 15 within a year. Over time, as his presence on the music charts declined, Richard shifted his focus toward building his Instagram and TikTok audiences, using his more than 740,000 followers for sponsored content, lifestyle vlogging, and personal branding. But now, he was using those same platforms to post far more alarming content, including the moment officers arrived to escort his ex-girlfriend and daughter out of the house.
Oh. Y'all don't walk down. Hold on, that's little. Y'all don't walk. Hey, you need to stop eating red meat, fat. Y'all know red meat is AIDS. Don't. I'm finna expose everything, even how the pyramids was made, and I'm finna expose what else did I say? How the pyramids was made. Why would you try to finesse God?
What else did I say? Red meat? And how the pyramids was made.
What?
I don't know.
Speak up!
Are they staging this, or is this actually?
I started, not you. Lift your head up. Out my house. Man, hey man, what is your badge number? Why would I need help? I am God.
Well, that's the point. Like some people actually, are like that, or they're just either putting on a show for whatever reason.
But as officers escorted the woman to safety, Plantation police had no idea this was only the beginning of Richard's escalating mental health episodes, as his ex-girlfriend soon began noticing a series of disturbing threats he posted on social media and tried to get him help, only to realize it was making things worse.
Get off my grass! Get off my grass! Get off my grass! Get off my grass! You are set up to Jews. Man, hey, get off my grass! Get off my grass! Get off my grass! Where's your badge number? Where's your badge number, you freaking? Rosie, call it bothering me! Please! Hey, bro, leave me alone, bro! Please leave me alone, bro! Please, I'm begging you, Coco! Look, y'all, bro, my God, bro!
Over the next 72 hours, Richard began exhibiting severe paranoia, claiming his neighbors were spying on him, that the clouds were stalking him, and even declaring himself to be God.
And the best part about all this is, y'all, they can't touch me. Y'all wanna know why? Because I done told the whole world that I'm God. Wonder why they need mirrors in the house, fool, and why that shit wasn't covered. They get on top of the roof, they can see me through there. I break it.
But authorities had no idea that just 2 days after escorting his ex-girlfriend from the house, things would escalate beyond anything they anticipated.
I dare you to come across that stream. It's gonna be a shootout. Foul, foul, foul.
Around 1:10 p.m. on February 9th, 2026, Richard made a bizarre 911 call identifying himself as Richard the Messiah and claiming that someone was poisoning his coconut tree.
Called the police about an hour ago. Told them somebody was coconut tree. Transfer you to non-emergency. They still ain't here. Y'all can't see what's going on, bro.
But it's what he had done immediately after that that triggered the police intervention.
Yeah, till y'all move along. Piss out right now. Yeah, what y'all leaving? The police finna come shut all this. Y'all know the stop playing. Y'all all going to jail. Y'all all going to jail.
Neighbors later reported videos showing Colbert pointing a gun outside his house while hurling death threats. But as more units responded to run this simple welfare check, they had no idea that Richard was about to take this simple intervention to a level they had never anticipated.
The clouds are spying
Get
on
away
him
from
and
my
stuff.
house. I don't need help. I need water. Not Coca-Cola, not eggs and red meat. I'm God. Look at me walk off this grass. Stupid idiot. I'm AI.
Richard's ex-girlfriend also warned police that he possessed firearms, putting officers on edge over the safety of both themselves and the surrounding neighborhood, with confirmation that Richard was armed, paranoid, and had been displaying
exactly paranoid about as far
Patrol
as
officers immediately drew their weapons,
right, seems to just be going off. This rhetoric, you hear it a lot within certain loops and groups.
What they had witnessed. But soon,
Yeah, it's almost like
officers
a show, like someone to the
Richard.
fuck it, fed up with everybody, everything, and they just kind of start spewing that kind of, I'm God, and I am the Messiah, I am the current. Remember Robbie? Oh, it was so funny. You know, we were down by the river. Oh my gosh, had to have been like 10 years ago, because he's 17 now, or he was only, what, 7 or 8, maybe 9 at the time, and he was swimming down in the river, and I was telling him that's far enough, because the current and stuff, said I don't want you going out any further, because the current. And he started thrashing his arms in the water back and forth, and he's like, I am the current. I'm always, right, he was kidding, right? Just being playful and theatrical, fun to express those kind of. See the difference, or no? Right, so when some people want to cast the ones just being, I'm in the current, silly, or I am the current. Right, see, that's not that. That's different.
I'm gonna take this west side here.
Right, now if you wanted to say, I am the current, and jump out farther into the water, and just have no fear, that's different. Like, even at that age, he knew he was just kidding. He didn't go out any further. He actually came in closer and just made a joke. He's like, I am the current. So, right now, if he were to have said that and been like, I am the current, bitch, dove out deeper, I would have had to go in and grab him. He might have fought me. They're like, dude, you are not the current. You cannot. No, it will sweep you away. Stop being a Karen. You motherfuckers mind your own business. You see what we've been dealing with? I'm just trying to help.
And this time, he held nothing back.
Anyways. Do you guys want to go get some ice cream? I like this. This right here, so far, everything about it is superb. I love it. Wow, top of the line right there.
Richard! You know that inside. Jump out of the water, help, huh?
He's got these front boarded up.
but the rear's not 40. So he knows that people are near back here.
So we also have units that are west of the house to stop pedestrians from walking just past the house.
Well, open it up so you can listen.
Yeah. Told me, y'all. They shut down my car. I was wondering why didn't police come charge me. I knew it the whole time. I never went to sleep. Anybody in the driveway, need him to come out. You won't do that if everybody's outside.
Sorry, do you want me to hang out behind that bush right there? See if I can hit him with a taser? I mean, I'm pretty good with a taser, like... No, he's not. But I'm not into that back, so... No charges. What? He said that he didn't take out the gun. He's saying that the guy verbally threatened to shoot it with their cops, and he never brandished the gun. Which is not what he told me to do.
With Richard unpredictable and dangerous, and already aware that officers are positioned everywhere, they are ordered to retreat, hoping the less threatening approach might draw him out of the house. In the meantime, one of the officers finds a window of hope to reason with him, but Richard makes it abundantly clear that he is in no mood for negotiations.
Yeah, we want to come talk to you, but you got... You gotta come talk to us, though. You gotta come talk to us, though. We got no reason to shoot you. Yeah. I don't want to walk up to that. Once he gets up there, just I don't know if we shoot him with this thing or.
But Richard completely barricaded himself inside the house as he continued to make death threats against police, leaving Plantation police with no choice but to secure a formal felony arrest warrant for the electronic threats he was broadcasting.
I'm chilling. I'm from Memphis. I ain't gotta work a day in my life. I dare you to come across that screen. It's gonna be a shootout. Foul, foul, foul. Fuck is a Halloween? I'm the one scared.
Around 10 p.m. that night, combined SWAT teams from the Davie and Plantation police departments would take over the perimeter, not realizing that this would only be the beginning of a long standoff where neither side would be willing to back down.
Richard Colbert, this is the Plantation Police Department SWAT team. Come out through the front door with your hands up now. All occupants, please come out through the front door slowly with your hands up. Richard Colbert, we are aware that you have a firearm, and we need you to put the firearm down and come out through the front door immediately. Richard, playtime is over. Please come out of the house immediately.
Yes. Say yes. Hey, when they move up, we're gonna go pinch in the garage. No, we're gonna move up to the corner. It sucks, because the only cover is, look at that. That's it. So just get behind me. Yep, exactly. Most likely, it's gonna, if he pops out of the door, it's gonna be a line counter him. Just something to keep in mind, though. I think I'll snipe him.
Richard Colbert, put the firearm down. Nobody wants to get hurt. We just want you to come out the front door peacefully.
Inside the house, Richard starts another live stream, broadcasting the unfolding events to his more than 750,000 followers. And the SWAT team, watching his live video outside, already knows he's not going to surrender easily.
What's the crime? What's the crime? Being at home? Y'all bothering me? What's the crime, sir? Please. What's the crime? I know my rights. I know my rights. I'm gonna exercise all three. What's the crime? You gonna kill for live TV?
Oh, got the gun in his hand? Got it.
And I watch Sports Center while I'm digesting my Count Chocula, and I phone my friend, Fat Freddy. And I go, hey, you want to eat a cheese sandwich or something around 3 o'clock? I got to wait for my Count Chocula to digest, but how'd that settle with you? He goes, yeah, great. So I get together with him, and on my way I get some groceries to bring home for later, and then of course there's dinner, you know. So most of my life is finding and consuming food. So it doesn't make for a riveting read. It's incredibly repetitious. When you're writing, you learn a lot of that. I went to a guy who was a big writer guy. He told me about things I didn't know about. Metaphors. You ever hear of them? He said, you gotta use metaphors. I'm like, what's that? He's like, that's a thing. So a metaphor is like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? So he's like, that means you can take a person, you know, and you can give him all the information and everything, but he still has to be the one to absorb it himself. So I was like, well, why the fuck didn't you just say that? Like, what? Why do you have to put a horse into it? Like, what? You thought I was so stupid you need to make it into some fable? Like, what? A horse? Or sometimes the metaphor part of it is true, but then the literal part is not true. Like they'll go like, that which does not kill you makes you stronger, right? Now, metaphorically, that's true. Like maybe a woman breaks your heart, you know, or life deals you a bad hand, and then the next time you're prepared for it, and it doesn't hurt you as much. But literally, it's not true at all. Literally, it's that which does not kill you makes you weaker, and will probably kill you the next time it shows up. That's why personally, I like the ones where the metaphor is true and the literal part is true. Like, they say like beauty is only skin deep. I think that's beautiful because it is like, you know, really what makes a person attractive is what's inside, their friendship, their conviviality, their goodwill, not this optic trick, you know? And so it has that. But also literally it's true because you could be, you know, the handsomest guy in the world, you know? You'd have like this chiseled jaw and beautiful thick mane of hair, you know, large shoulders and narrow waist. You guys horny? Is it just me or? Giant quads, a perfect body, 6% body fat, you know? But you take that same guy and you skin him. All of a sudden, he is not so easy on the eye. Getting old, you know. I asked my doctor, this is interesting, because I wondered, you know, I know the first two causes of death, heart disease and cancer, neck and neck, you know, to kill you. So I said to the doctor, what's the third most common cause of death? What is the third? And he said, complications. Well, that's like the doctor fucking up. Like, how is that the third? That's the third? You know, you go, hey, Doc, I can't help but noticing my father is dead. And I remember yesterday you said it was a simple operation. And he's like, yeah, we thought it was. It looks simple in the book, I'll tell you that. But you cut open a man, by God, it's all this red stringy stuff and everything. Are you a doctor? You go, no, you wouldn't have that. Way too complicated for you. But you worry when you get old, you know? You're concerned, scared. I remember my grandmother, she was like, I think she was like 85 at the time or something. And I looked at her, she was sitting on a chair, I said, hey grandma, she had a bruise, right? And I went from her wrist all the way up, her arm right to her shoulder, a big bruise, purple, green, and yellow. A third of each. And I said, Grandma, where did you get that bruise? And then my grandmother said, the wind. I said, the wind? And she said, yes, do you remember that gentle breeze yesterday? I was like, yeah, I remember. My parents were teachers, which is a noble profession, everyone says. They're fine people, but you know what's weird? They all say teachers are the real heroes. My folks, not heroic at all. And as a matter of fact, I have never met a teacher that showed any heroism. And I've known a lot of teachers because I was a student for years and years. And never once I go, hey Barney, man, I was just looking at old man Abernathy, the way he's erasing that chalk on the chalkboard, where he put the chalk earlier. And I was thinking, he cuts a heroic figure, doesn't he? No, me neither. I didn't think that either. I just heard that somewhere. It's not that hard a job when you think about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty good job. If you have a job where you go to work, like grade 3, you go to work, and you're 50 times bigger than everybody else that you work with, that's a pretty good job. Plus, they do all the work. You do nothing. That's... How about the students? How about giving some of them the heroism? The 5-year-olds that are working for free. And what do you need, really, to be a teacher anyway? What's the, qualifications? Let's say you're teaching a 3rd grade. What do you need? A 4th grade education. Really, anything above that, you're overqualified, really, I don't like school. I like before school. Man, do you remember that? Before you had to go to school, man, that was the greatest time ever. I'll never forget. Those are my finest days, man. I love them so much. I remember, I'd go over to Sean Kay's house, and I'd have a stick, and that'd be the whole day. I go, Sean, I got a stick. He'd go, God damn, we go play. It was so much fun. And then one day, suddenly I'm in school. They're dragging me in. I remember there were tears, and I'm like, what the fuck? And there were these windows that you'd look out the window, and sometimes you'd see the stick, And you go, God damn, do these people's cruelty know no offense? Nowadays, they have the ADD and stuff like that. If a kid's in class, he's like, hey, I'd like to go out. They go, we're going to drug you. Then you won't want to get out, run around in the grass and have fun with the stick. You'll be fine. You'll be good. But anyways, I'm old now, I was young. Now I'm old. Yep. I learned some things in school. But now that I'm old, things scare me, and I think it's the media does. Like, they go, North Korea, and I don't know, it kind of scares. It doesn't scare me that much, but it's supposed to scare you. But, are you really scared? Have you ever woken up, go, ah! And your wife's like, what's the matter, honey? North Korea. A little tiny country way the fuck over somewhere. I'm scared, honey, I'm scared. I'll tell you, Iraq doesn't scare me, North Korea, none of those countries scare me. There's only one country, really, that scares me, in the whole country, or in the whole, what do you call it? It's bigger than a country but less than a galaxy? Earth. The entire Earth, there's only one country that frightens me, and it's the country of Germany. I don't know if you guys are students of history or not, but for those of you who aren't, Germany, in the previous century of the early part, they decided to go to war. And who did they choose to go to war with? The world. So you think that would last about 5 seconds and the world would fucking win, and you know, that'd be that. But it was actually close. And I don't know how that would work, but then 30 years pass, and Germany decides to go to war again. And once again, they choose as their foe the world. And now, this time, they really almost win. So at this point, you would think the world would go, okay, Germany, you're fucking not a country anymore. All right? The fuck? You're not a country because you keep going to war with the world. And no one does. What do you think? You're Mars? Think you're Mars or something? But it's fun to get old, you know? Start watching old things. You know those commercials that are toward old people? You know, like I was watching, for instance, on MeTV, I was watching The $6 Million Man, right? And he was in Paris, he was jumping over the Arc de Triomphe and everything like that. And then, just by luck or coincidence, they went to a commercial, and it was a commercial starring Lee Majors, the $6 Million Man, but as he is today, like an old man. So he's jumping over, and it was for the bionic ear. And it wasn't the real bionic ear from the show, it was a fucking hearing aid. So you see him jumping over the Arc de Triomphe, and then it cuts, and he's in the studio, and he's like, I can't hear too good out of it. This one's no good at all. This one's alright. This one may as well not even be an ear. There you go. God damn. You can't help but feel sorry for a man like that. Because you know, at one time, he got a phone call from his agent, you know? And he probably had all kinds of hope, you know? His answer is, hey, Jerome, my God, I haven't heard from you in 30 years. You got something for me? Well, let me guess. I bet I know what it is. It's that movie I wrote, The Return of the $6 Million Man, starring Ben Stiller. And then I show up as a judge for 2 minutes. Is that the one? No. Well, what is it then?
That's crazy.
It's
got lasers?
No, not out of this one. Nope.
Goodness gracious. Yeah.
Was it? That's a hearing aid?
Yeah.
Well, how much does something like that pay a fellow? It's funny you say that, Jerome, because when you say it, I realize that's only 1/10 what I used to get from a single episode of, no, I won't stop that, sorry. When do they have to know by? Within the hour, huh? Well, I guess then I would say, yes, I'll take that. Jerome, I have to ask you this. Is there any way in the contract that you can put in that I'm sad?
For your health or my health.
Now listen, man, I like the news. You guys like the news? I always watch the news, and I'll tell you something about the news. I don't understand it. But it's for some reason I watch it. I don't even know why. But I think I'm supposed to or something. So I'll watch it, and then the guy will come on and he'll go, anyways, today the deficit. And I'll go, I've heard that word. And the guy goes, today the Dow Jones NASDAQ Composite Index is down. And then I go, that's not good. Down. Up. I like when it's up. That's my opinion on that. Seems like there's too much news, like, you know, because now they have 24-hour news. Now, when I was a young boy, the news was half a hour. That was the whole news, you know. And a guy would come on and he'd have a tie, you know, and shit, and he would say the news. And it was a half a hour long. Now, it's 24 hours long. Now, it turns out that back in the old days when it was only half a hour, they had it about right. That's about all the news there is. There'd always be like a story, some fucking story at the end about a caribou or some horse shit. So there wasn't even enough to fill the half hour. But 24 hours, way too long. So they have to keep repeating stories all the time and everything, and they'll make up stories, you know. They do that a lot, make up things that aren't really news stories, but they have to, you know, fill the 24 hours, you know. And the one I noticed that they make up a lot, this is the latest one I've seen. I see this all the time on the news. The newsman will come on, he'll go, good evening, everybody. This is the newsman. Whatever he says, he's not going to say that. And he goes, our top story tonight, a lady has vanished. That's the story. And then he goes, let's go outside where there's another guy. So then they cut to outside. And then there's a guy outside and he's like, hey, listen, us going inside. We're outside and we found out about this lady that vanished. Her name was Janice, and they found her car here in the Taco Bell parking lot. And don't worry about the car, it's fine. But can't find her in her hair of the lady. Oh, back to you. So then you're watching, you go, well, I don't give a fuck on account I never knew Janice in the first place. Matter of fact, I'm kind of happy it's Janice and not somebody I know. But then what they do is they start telling you about Janice, you know? And they go, hey, we found out some cool things about Janice. You're like, no, that's cool, I don't want to hear it. They go, no, you want to hear it. They can't help themselves. So they go, let's go back to Bill. He's still outside. And how's it going, Bill? And Bill's like, it's all right. It's no inside, but it's cool. And anyways, we found out about Janice. Turns out she's a good lady. And we found some friends of hers, and here they are. And then sure enough, they show a lady, and it says, friend of Janice. And she says, I'll tell you something about Janice. You want to hear about Janice? Janice is the type of lady that you could always turn to. You know, you ever want to turn to somebody? Like if you got a problem or something, and you feel like you want to turn. Ever do that? Or maybe your neck just hurts and you want to anyways. The point of it is that once you swiveled your head over this way, the person you'd most want to see in your eye line would be Janice. And then they have another friend of Janice that wasn't the first one. And she'll go, I'll tell you, Janice, oh my God. She was the type of lady that she could walk into a room and light up the whole room, you know? Well, she didn't have a fucking lighter, not like that. She would just somehow, through sheer tyranny of will, she could somehow illuminate a room. I don't know. And that would be Janice's third friend lady that's not one of the earlier two. And then she goes, I'll tell you about Janice. Is that who you're asking about, Janice? Janice was the type of lady that you could be talking to your best friend in the whole world, and then Janice come in and you go, fuck you, I'm talking to Janice. Because Janice is better than you. Come on, let's face it. She's better than all of us. So anyways, then you're at home and you start liking Janice, you know what I mean? You start getting invested in her. You go, God damn, that Janice, this cool lady, I would like to meet her one day. That would be a lot of... Fuck, I forgot she vanished. Just my luck. They'll find her. Then you get hope. That's not good. I don't give a fuck what Obama says. Hope is never good. Don't try it. It never works out. So you go, oh man, they'll find Janice. They're putting pictures up of her on telephone poles. I think that had worked once. And then the news keeps showing you more things about Janice, you know? And they'll show you like the home videos of her. You're like, God damn, look at that. She's eating a pizza. I like her hair like that. They'll find her. And then you become obsessed with Janice. It's all you can think of, you know? You're at work. I just can't wait to get home agonizing over Janice, you know, and thinking about her with eating pizza and shit. And then you go home, and your nights are just fevered dreams of, you know, Janice and bangs and shit like that. And all you can do is turn on the TV and hope, and you know, and then one day, you know, they go, hey, more news on Janice. Here's the Bill. He's still outside, and then Bill is like outside. And he's like, here we are. Where, as you can see behind me, they are scouring the woods. They're still searching for Janice, you know. And then you go, oh fuck, not the woods. You know, that's nothing good ever happens in the woods. I've seen enough of these fucking stories to know that Janice ain't coming bounding out of the woods anytime soon. It's like, hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm just taking a stroll through the woods. What are you taking my picture for? I just took a stroll through the scraggly woods. No, if they find you in the woods, they always find you in the same place. Every time they will find you in a shallow grave. I don't know why they don't just look there in the first place. If I was the police chief, I'd go, listen, I want every shallow grave in the vicinity checked out. I want to clear up this case by Tuesday on account of I'm running for DA or whatever. But
June 23rd, 2022, officer conducted a traffic stop.
Doesn't shallow grave seem a mite rash? You know, like these serial killers are supposed to be so shrewd and cunning and everything, you know? At least according to the TV movies I've seen. And but then when it comes time for the grave, they get a little hasty, you know? Oh, there you go, 3 twigs and a leaf. That ought to do it. That doesn't look like Janice anymore. I don't recall Janice ever wearing 3 leaves and a twig. Oh well. Guess I'll come home and await the authorities now. You gotta prepare these things, you know? You gotta be a little smarter than that. You know, what I would do, and I would never, ever kill a lady in cold blood. I know I say that now, I don't really know. I can't predict the future, but I don't believe I know there's no river long enough doesn't contain a bend, but I believe that right now, it might just be vanity. I don't think I would kill a woman in cold blood. But if I did, I would plan it out very carefully, you know, because there's a lot at stake. You know, you think about it, you probably, you know, probably lose your job. I don't know what happens. That's a blemish on the old CV, you know. Even in today's enlightened society, there remains a stigma to being a psychosexual sadist. But what I would do is I would look at the lady, I would select a lady, and then I would follow her habits. You understand what I'm saying? Like I would watch her very carefully, you know? And I go, hey, I noticed that every day she goes to that cheese sandwich shop, and then she comes out with a little paper bag. I'll bet you anything there's a cheese sandwich in there. So I keep that in my head, you understand? Then I'd say, hey, I notice every Wednesday evening she goes with her other lady friends and they go down to the YWCA and they play basketball with each other, which is fine nowadays. You know? So what I would do is on Wednesday I would go down to the YWCA and what would I be holding in my right hand in the parking lot but a cheese sandwich. So then she would eventually come out of the YWCA, you know, all sweaty with her, her ridiculous three-colored ball and everything there, you know. And I understand. And then she'd go, hey, what's in your right hand? And I go, nothing. I'd be coy, you know. And she'd go, there's something in your right hand. I go, listen, lady, who knows more about what's in their right hand? You or me? I believe, this. Now, this is just a cheese sandwich. Why, you like them or something? I got a whole fucking van full of them over there. Right over there. Yeah, that craziest looking fucking van you ever saw? That's filled with cheese sandwiches. You don't have to have cheese sandwiches in the van, by the way. Unless you want to be known for your detailed work, it's not really necessary. Then I would get the lady in the van and I would drive her to a remote area, an area most known for its remoteness. That's what I would look at. And anyways, I'd take her to the remote area where I constructed a shed. And then I would get her in there and I would do that thing that makes me feel like God. And then her screams would just bounce off the walls and echo out into nowhere and never touch the ear of civilized man again. And then I would take her body to the woods and bury her in a very, very, very deep grave.
With a link to that event. So, as of now, it is still on, as far as I understand. But I can't imagine if the story comes out tonight, we're kind of getting up on that stage in Bar Harbor tomorrow with Grant Butler. I mean, that would be a career suicide. Is that what you want about Rokan? He's dumb enough to do that, I don't think.
We're fighting the oligarchies, but we're going to hold an event in Bar Harbor. Explain that for me.
With Rokan, whose net worth is like $650 million.
Okay, but we're fighting the oligarchies. Okay, gotcha.
I know it's not his only thing, but I think of Rokan as being the kind of the one of the head honchos of the release the Epstein files. Like he was
Here's
one of the
deal. When Graham came home 14 years ago, he said things he regrets.
So
but now he's being attacked by politicians. Who never want anything to change. Graham apologized. He changed. Graham gives me so much hope.
I'm Graham Black, and I approve this message.
Twice yearly prep is here. One office visit every 6 months. 2 times a year for HIV prevention. That's one prep. That's Yestugo. Yestugo is an injectable prescription medicine that helps to protect against HIV through sex. One office visit every 6 months. One during your winter glam.
For house. And I saved enough money to buy that house. That was my first real estate investment. How old are you?
I will have somebody.
I'm 44. Oh, it's kind of like you don't look that old.
Feels like
Good living, you know. Good living.
In person.
And so I worked my tail off at $9 an hour. By the time I graduated 4 years later, I was making a whopping $12 an hour.
Before that, he's
working 30 to 40 hours a week, taking a full class list. I had roommates literally till I got married. And in fact, when I got married, I was making really good money.
Sorry guys. The story just dropped on the New York Times.
But I just
realized it is officially out. Several women who date Grand Platinum recall unsettling behavior. Just breaking out from the New York Times.
Don't go doomspin.
I pulled up on my phone.
Like everything else, is it good to celebrate things? Yeah, celebrate milestones. When I had my first 100K in my trading account, I went and took all of my friends out. We went to Fogo de Chao. And I paid for everything. We ordered like 6 bottles of wine. We had about 10 guys eating, and I just like, hey, bring me the bill. And one of my best friends at the time was a self-described socialist, and he's like, this is incredible. I can't believe people live this way. I said, welcome to capitalism, brother. Yeah.
But that was one time, right? You don't do that all the time?
You don't do it all the time. You do it to celebrate the milestones.
Well, so here's one of the other challenges, I think, for the younger generation is gambling. The gambling advertisements are exploding. You watch sporting events, and they're telling you, screaming in your face, like, hey, you should sports bet, you should do a crazy 6-leg parlay and try and win $1 million. And then we end up with these prediction markets. I'm fairly libertarian in this respect. Like, you should be free to do it. I think people need to develop their own responsibility. It's like you're saying, you can celebrate once, it's fine, don't overspend. But now with these prediction markets, things are getting real weird. Because people are... first, I'll say it's really crazy. There are people who have made a career off of guessing what might happen, and it's pretty crazy to think there's like some 25-year-old guy who's making $1 million a year because he just guesses what's going to happen better than everybody. He predicts better. But now they're trying to ban this. And one of the stories that we just saw, I think, was it Minnesota? They banned prediction markets outright. They're basically saying you can't spend your money on what you want to spend your money on. What I would say is, personally, I don't think they should ban it. I also think there's a big risk if young people are thinking, betting on prediction market, maybe betting's not the right word, but buying futures contracts, trying to make bets on future outcomes. It's not. I don't know if that's the right way to go about saving and building wealth and pulling yourself out of a rut. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't think so. But I don't know. What do you think?
Coming into the gambling conversation,
you probably could have got ahead of this.
I think anyone should be free to do what they want to do with the money. It's kind of funny to me that Tim Wall's like, oh no, we're going to have responsibility that you have Smalley daycares rampant in fraud. Like, that's pretty polar opposite there. But the bigger concern for me in the prediction market space is people say, well, this is gambling. It is if you don't know what you're doing. Right? I don't participate in that. I'm purpose to stay in the stock market. I do trade futures. I do day trade. Most of my trading is what's called swing trading, long-term investing, because there's an advantage or an edge that you can gain, right? Someone like yourself, you're in the political market all the time. You know the ins and outs. I've heard you talk numerous times about the Democrats. There's no way they're going to sweep, right? Yeah. That's not my world, and so there's no way I would place a bet on that. Yeah, you could, because you have an advantage because you're in the know there.
There's a lot of bad Republicans out there.
So I think taking that personal responsibility for people instead of outright banning it, because it does come with other caveats. Like, what about farmers who are trying to hedge against cattle prices falling when they have new cows in the spring? Like, you don't know what's going to happen by the end, and if these ticks keep getting released and people are alluding to things that can drive prices down for cattle, that's bad for farmers, so they may buy some cattle futures and just hedge their pricing there. That's now, in this particular bill, that would be banned.
Well, something else interesting happened too, that I'm not a day trader, I'm not a stock guy all that much, but my friends are basically saying, like, what is it, PDT, pattern day trading day, they've eliminated this rule. Can you explain what that means?
Journalists were sworn is taking out his home
pattern day trade
and mid-terminal almost to work the phones, rolling through calls to ex-girlfriends who might publicly acknowledge that while he may have been a bad boyfriend, he was in fact a decent guy.
You had to have a minimum of $25,000 in your account
on Wednesday. Several
in what's called a margin account, so you could actually borrow against it. And you could not make more than 3 day trades in any 5-day period. And so a day trade is considered in and out the same business day. So I buy and sell that
but
day.
In extensive conversations over the past 2 months,
dropped to 2000. And so it was voted on, and we're coming into the time frame. I think most brokers are implementing it by June 6th.
There's another,
and I know like Schwab already did it on June 4th.
But in extensive
so
conversations
this
over the past
where
several
it
months,
opens the door for people. personally,
the
I
other
love
women who had been romantically involved
because
with
it
Mr.
gives
Plattner
so many people the
offered a far more
opportunity to day
complicated
trade
assessment,
without
describing
the
volatile and
necessity of
toxic relationships
$25,000
that
for
were
some people who
unsettling
don't
at
want
times,
to.
at times emotionally wrenching.
But it's a double-edged sword.
Mr.
Because if you
Plattner
don't
could be
know what
charming
you're
and
doing,
charismatic,
you can go
they
lose
were
your
called in
money
interviews, but
really
also
quickly
demeaning to women,
because
and at least one, in
you're
at
at
least
the
one
casino rather
case,
than
even
becoming
physically threatening.
You know, it's
He
crazy
drank
to me. I
heavily
remember
and was
when
regularly
I don't know if it
unfaithful.
was like the Jobs Act
Mr.
or
Plattner,
something.
41,
I don't
combat
know. There's
veteran,
like
has
this
spoken
was
openly
that
about
when they
grappling with
opened up like
post-traumatic
retail
stress disorder,
investments. I
depression,
just let me
and
just put it like
drinking that
this.
he
I
said
remember
resulted
reading
from
about
his
how
time
to
in the
be an
military.
investor, you have to have
As
$250,000
revelations about him
or
have
some
surfaced,
threshold of money.
including his
And I'm sitting there
dismissive
thinking like,
remarks online about rape
how is that
and the derogatory
allowed in
comments
this country?
about
The
women,
government
as well
says
as a
you
tattoo he has is
saved up
widely
10 grand.
recognized as a
You're not allowed
Nazi
to
symbol.
invest in these things because
He
you're
has said his
poor.
past
That just
behavior
seems
does not
crazy to me.
reflect who he is today.
So that's a certain
He
class
has
of
urged
investor. You can
should
invest
not
in
judge
different
him for the
businesses, different
worst
offerings
thing I did
with
on the
whatever your money
internet on
is,
my
but
worst
if
day
you want
14
to
years ago, end quote.
hit that
The
certain
critical
class, the
accounts
actual
provided by
threshold is
three
$1
of the
million
women interviewed by the New
net
York
worth. Like there's
Times,
three different
who
things. You have to have a
were
series.
each in
You
romantic
can have a series
relationships
like
with him
7,
for years,
63,
give a fuller
65,
picture of
showing
Mr.
that you
Plattner's
have
life.
some
They
level
shed
of
light
knowledge. It's called
on
an
an earlier
accredited
era
investor.
when he has
Right?
acknowledged
That's
intense
the legal
struggles,
term for
but
it.
also raised questions about his
But you can
more
invest.
recent
You can do
years
small money
in
loans to your
Maine,
neighbor all day
which his
long.
campaign
As an
has
investment
presented
if you
as a
wanted to.
period of healing and
What's
personal
interesting
redemption.
here again
The
is
disclosure
people's
last week
lack of
that
education.
Mr. Plattner,
And
now
that's where
married,
the
was
danger
exchanging
comes in.
sexual messages with
So, for
women
example,
as
I
recently
run
as
trading
last
rooms.
year,
I had a guy
have
this morning
complicated that narrative
we were in a trading room together,
unnerved
and he made a
Democrats
51%
who
return
are the
on a day
main
trade.
seat,
Wow, now that sounds incredible.
who
It
see
was
the main seat
$400
as their
$400
efforts
a day.
to
Hey,
gain control of the
pretty
Senate.
nice income per year. That buys groceries for a week. You know what I'm saying? Like extra $400 a day in 20 minutes.
But is that realistic to make $400 a day from
a
like a
Virginia
proper day
conservative
trade?
who has worked for
Absolutely.
right-leaning
Wow.
groups
You just
and
don't get-
Republican
you don't get
campaigns,
the opportunities
recalled
every-
him as cavalierly
And so where people
contemptuous of
have a
women's
hard time in
emotions
this
and
is
our
understanding
weakness.
moving from
Ms.
that
Fifield, who
mindset of
dated
like
Mr. Plattner,
job employee
from
mentality
roughly 2013 to 2015, said
opportunity. And what I mean
his
by that
offensive
is
online posts,
if
quote,
I'm
reminded
sitting in
me
front
of
of
just
my
how
computer
much
screen
he hated
working
women.
on a day trade, I should expect
Jeremy
to be paid.
Resicott, 41, a Maine
The
Democrat
difference
who
is
said...
someone that does it
Oh, no, Jenny, I'm
consistently
sorry. Jenny
over
Resicott,
time
a Maine Democrat who said she had
and has a
dated him
consistent pay
casually
rate,
off and on
they're
between
not
2019
looking
to
for an opportunity in
2021,
that moment.
said
They're
the post
looking for
deepened
that
her belief that he
opportunity
did not respect women.
however long it takes.
Here's a quote. When I saw the
So
old
you may
comments
sit there
that,
for an hour
that he made
and have no
online, she
opportunity.
said, I recognized
Then,
a version of
20
him
minutes
that I
later,
had
you get
experiences
the
with.
opportunity and you can
Some
make
of the women also
significantly more money.
question,
So
also
how does
raised
this new
questions
rule
about
work?
his
If you have at
trustworthiness.
least 2,000, you're
Mr.
free to day
Plattner's
trade as much as you
insistence
want.
that
Is
he
that what
did
it is?
not know that his tattoo was a Nazi
You can
symbol
day trade. There is
until
no
it became a campaign
three
issue
trades in a
last
5-day minimum.
fall was
You can
empty.
day trade
Was
in and
simply
out as
not
much as you want
true.
to in a margin
Ms.
account.
Fifield
Now,
said,
another
after all,
way
she
you could
said,
have gotten
he
around
had
that is
taught
if you got what's
her
called a cash
the word
account
for
with
it
broker.
years earlier,
So the
referring
only
to
money
it as my totem
was
top.
inside
That's pretty
your
damn
brokerage
good.
account.
Yeah.
But you can
His
now have a
campaign
margin
strongly
account, which
denied
allows
that he
you
knew
to
what the
do
tattoo
advanced
stood
options,
for.
spreads, credit
And in his
spreads, debit
statement
spreads,
to the
iron
Times,
condors,
Mr.
all these
Plattner
fun
said he
things.
had too often
And it's not that big a deal.
self-medicated with
You know what
alcohol
key to all of
and
this,
was
Tim, is
a
being
far from
educated so
perfect
that you know
boyfriend
what you're looking
during what he described
I
as a very
think this is the
dark period
secret
of
to
my
being
life.
rich. I was talking to a buddy like 10 years ago, and he said, you know what I found? I found like
I
all
take
the rich people I
responsibility
know
for
were
all of
clients.
that, in which
And I was
had
like,
been
duh.
better, he
like
said.
if you know how money
Any
works,
characterization beyond
then then you will figure out how to make more money. And one of the challenges that I've seen, because I'm like, you know, like the money stuff is a small portion of what I do as a person, as a guy who runs a business. Me, I'm focused on content and politics. But of course, I have to understand a certain amount of how the banking system and finance works to manage and maintain the finances for my business. But what I end up finding when I'm talking to people about success, and I'll add this in there too, it's sad when I meet someone who's like a socialist or whatever, and it's really just because they're ill-informed or ignorant of how the system actually works and how they could actually navigate and benefit from it. And it's not exploitative, but I find that the mentality most people have is to get money, you have to get a job. They view the economy as, if I need money, I should go to someone else and ask them to give it to me. But not in the right way. They do it in the way where it's like, they don't understand that they have free will almost. I'm not trying to be a dick or anything, but I'm like, you can literally walk up to someone and just say, can I have $20? And you might get understanding that the economy is basically, how do you manage money? Then
The
you
third
start
woman,
making
a
more money,
Democrat
figuring
from Maine, who
the
spoke
system
on the
out better.
condition of anonymity,
And
had a
just back to the point
long-distance
you were
relationship
making,
with
and
Mr. Plattner, on
I'm
and off
throwing
for
in there.
years, as recently as
I
2016.
feel like the fastest path to wealth,
in
success,
similar
making money, and
terms.
living comfortably is
Giving
just
time
literally
could be
knowing
exhilarating,
how the monetary
but
system
they
works.
Also recounted
I
patterns of heavy
completely
drinking
agree.
and
I heard a guy
womanizing.
once say
Asked to
that
sum up how
if you don't
he
have a
treated
plan for
her,
your
the
money,
third
someone else
woman said
does.
she felt like, quote, collateral
So you better
damage
have
to the
that,
world
right? That
that
means
is his. And
how do you want to invest? How do you want to trade? How do you want to grow a business? How do you want to start a business? And I'm very grateful for all of the jobs that I did have before I started my own company, because it allowed me to learn different skill sets that I could then implement for my own business. And so I'm grateful for all that stuff. But at the same time, if you want to create wealth, there's really three ways to do it. Start a business, invest in real estate, or the market, and value creation. Yeah. People pay for the value creation.
He was a cheater.
I feel like, starting a business and investing, they go hand in hand. And I think people, again, when it comes to political debates, I'll talk to some like economic lefty, and they say, investing is, they view the stock market as gambling. And it's because they don't understand the structure of what the purpose of stock trading is, or why a company does an IPO. I tell you, man, the most frustrating thing is a lot of people think money is just infinite. Like they think, I've dealt with this. People think that my company just has infinite money. Like we can hire whoever, whenever. No, like money has to come in before money can go out. It has to be balanced. So you're making an investment, you're providing capital to that company. In a small sense, the general idea is you're investing in that business so the business has capital to grow, develop, and then of course there's secondary market trades and things like that. But it really is just about, we're all trying to create economic value in some way. And if I'm not someone who knows how to paint the picture or build a bicycle, what can I do? Well, I saved up a bunch of money, which is a trade medium. I can lend that to you so that you can build the business, and I can be a part of it, but I don't have the knowledge to build the business.
She said she recognized that Mr. Plattner was struggling with the aftermath of his military service,
investing long-term in companies gives you that opportunity. I saw an article the other day about Ashton Kutcher. I don't know if it was OpenAI or Anthropic, but he put like $30 million in there, and when they go public this year, he's going to make over $1 billion. Wow. He didn't create any of that. Nope. But he was an investor that allowed those brilliant minds to do that, right? So, to me, there's kind of three worlds here. There's this idea of investing long-term, which I can understand why people view the market as gambling.
What she said, he regularly
because
grabbed
when you
her by
invest
the
long
shoulders,
term,
sometimes hard enough to leave marks.
You're hoping that stock turns out well, that it becomes the next Claude or SpaceX or OpenAI or whatever. You're hoping that you buy Nvidia back in 2012 at $20-30, and it turns into what it is now. But there's no guarantee, because for every one of those, there's still a PayPal. I actually saw a stat from JP Morgan that 40% of all small cap companies, which is what all these companies start as typically, over 40% drop 70% from all-time highs and never recover beyond 60. So that's a pretty big percentage. Which is why I teach people, don't buy and hold forever, buy and hold to particular targets. Like, have a price point that you're like, man, if this goes to X, I'm out. I don't want to do this forever. I think because the purpose of investing is making money. Robinhood got real big, and I don't know if they're the only one, because I'm not a big finance guy, but this like retail investor stuff started popping up like crazy. We saw like AMC, these meme stocks and things like this. Now with this pattern day trading rule, it sounds to me like way more people are about to jump in without knowing what you're describing and how to do this. Like, I learned something really interesting. So I bought a stock and I lost. Like, it dropped in value. And I was upset. Yeah, when I opened my app, it's like, congratulations on your loss. And it was like, with the rules of how taxes work and, what was it called? Like tax loss harvesting or something? Tax loss harvesting. See, I'm not a finance guy. And like, the app is explaining to me how actually this is not like you've lost value, it is, but you're in this for the long haul. Now you can harvest the tax loss, it's going to save you on taxes. You still have the value, you can move it, you can keep it there, there's strategies you need to understand. And I'm like, man, this is why
Now with like the pattern day trading rule, with these retail investors, we're going to see way more people getting involved. Why they need to learn these things if they're going to be taking this seriously. My view on this is I'm kind of worried people are going to jump in thinking it's going to be a get-rich-quick scheme, and they're going to burn their money up, and it's going to be bad for them.
That'll for sure happen.
Oh man,
there's going to be a ton of people that's what happens to them. I tell people the market isn't get rich quick; it's get rich quicker. Get rich within their current quicker pace, right? Because when you try to get rich quick, you know, there's a proverb that says money earned quickly and swiftly creates wings and flies away as an eagle towards the heavens. You need to understand the system behind why the market moves the way it does. Because there actually is a particular way that the market moves. And when you can see it, when someone points it out to you, you can't unsee it.
He doesn't like
right? And so when you get, you ever seen one of those pictures, Tim, that you stare at? It's like all these crazy pixels, and you stare at it, cross your eyes, like a buffalo shows up. You're like, oh my god, I didn't see that, right? It's this 3D hologram picture. That's the way the stock market looks. People think it's crazy, it's erratic, there's no rhythm, there's no rhyme, it just does what it's going to do. It could be based on a tweet from a politician, it could be based on global economics. There's actually specific movements that stocks make that gives you opportunity to invest and get into it, and that's what we show people. And it's what's crazy is it's not that hard. You just have to be patient to develop the skill. I feel like right now economically you've got war, you've got gas, like all the stuff we were bringing up early on, and then you mentioned like Somali fraud in Minnesota, and now we're finding in California and Ohio. I feel like it's really hard to get optimistic about an economic future and even to invest in things when you can see this degree of corruption nationwide. And then even in California, they got the Stop Nick Shirley Act. They're trying to stop people from uncovering this stuff. I feel like this is a layup, but are you optimistic? Are you optimistic moving forward? I'm a very optimistic person, so yes. Very optimistic moving forward. And the thing about corruption is these are the people that we chose, right? So we have this representative system that we get to select who do we want in office. And if we continue to put the same people in office and expect different results, that is a definition of insanity. Yep. So getting new people there who can get rid of the corruption. And, you know, it's kind of hard to do that because what's the old saying? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yeah. Right. And so getting people in there, which I'm a big proponent of term limits, get them in there, let them do a job, clean everything up, create doges for each state, if you would, like have 50 different state-run doges, get rid of as much corruption, and when it's found, hold those people accountable. So, my view is like on the political side of things, I can tell you all about what's going on. Like you mentioned, I was talking about Democrats; they can't sweep, like it's impossible, right? Well, I wouldn't be so definitive. There's a possibility, but I can track all those political trends and see that stuff. So, in the political side of things, I feel like there's an advantage. We're moving in a positive direction towards like getting the corruption, getting rid of that. Republicans, far from perfect, but better in a lot of ways. They've got a good advantage to win. In the financial side of things, do you see it similarly? Like there's going to be good market opportunity, the economy is going to improve, like something like that. It's going to get better. I think the market's for sure going to improve. It just depends on what sectors that you're looking into. Yeah. And so this is where the education piece really comes in. So many times when I speak to people, I'm like, okay, well, how were you trained about the stock market? What did you hear from your parents growing up? What did you learn in school from it? Nothing. And it's goose eggs across the board. No one knows anything about it. And it feels like the global elite has kept it that way. And they're like, trust us with your money. Trust us to do what's right for you. You put your money in a bank, they're paying you 1%, and yet they're lending it out to other people at 10, 12, 15%. You're like, why are these banks so big? Why are they getting so rich? Because they understand how the money system works. All you have to do is get the education so that you
Lucas, the
understand
president
it
of
for
Independent Living,
yourself.
said Ms.
And so if
Fifield
you
had
do that,
never
yes,
been
I
an
think you have a
employee and was
can have
last
a very
paid by
positive
the
outlook
organization in 2022.
for your financial
Total
future,
amount
for
she
the
was
markets in
paid,
general. I
Ms.
think the
Lucas
markets
said,
will
was
continue to
roughly
climb. I think we are going to
$15,000
see
over 2021 and 2022.
greater progress,
Mr. Plattner's campaign,
especially as we get more AI robotics coming in. But I also know that the Gen Zs, people who are coming out of college right now, that's their greatest fear because they were sold this bill of goods of study hard, get good grades, go to college, get good grades, you'll get a good job, and now all of a sudden that good job is being replaced. Now what do I do? Right? And so you have to learn to adapt with that. And so instead of having this doomsday forecast, and again, I'm a big believer in, I hate to use the word manifestation, but I'm a big believer in power and death are in the tongue of those who love it for their own. That you can create what you're going to walk into, and so you might as well create something awesome.
The others who spoke on the condition of anonymity.
All right, here's I don't know if this is an easy one or a hard one, but if there's like a young person listening right now who's trying to figure out how to make some money, build wealth, make their 5-year plan, what's like the first thing? Let's say they're 22, right? They're making they're working at a Starbucks. What can they do right now? They want to make the right move.
Create skill sets. Start finding what you are passionate about, what you want to go into, and start working on skill sets.
Mr. Plattner said that he had
move
learned
towards
from
the
news
goal.
media inquiries
Number one. And
that
then,
the
but
tattoo
write
on
it
his
down.
chest was
Write it down.
widely
I'm a
recognized
huge
as a
believer
Nazi
in writing
symbol,
down
and he
a 1-year
wants to
plan,
cover.
5-year plan, 10-year
Mr. Plattner
plan.
said that he hadn't known
If we had
what
time,
the
I could give you all the
other than
research
a
to back
terrifying-looking
how
skull and
that's so
crossbones
powerful in your
on
life.
the
But
wall
write it
of a
down, and
tattoo
then what
parlor-
skill sets
tattoo
would you
parlor
need
in
to
Croatia,
accomplish to get there?
where he and other Marines
And then
in his
start
unit
working
had
on
done
those
in
skill sets.
2007.
And so if you're like,
It
hey,
was not
I
until I
really want to
started
get involved in the
hearing
markets,
from reporters and DC
start
insiders that I realized
developing the
this
skill
tattoo
sets
resembled
of
Nazi
getting
symbol.
involved in the markets. Or hey, I really want to. How many? Let me ask you this, Tim. Let me throw it back to you.
Absolutely
How many
would not
skill
have
sets do
gone
you
through,
need to do what you
having
do?
this on my chest if
You know,
I knew
it's
that.
funny because I talked about this just like a week ago.
That I did
Everything that I do, I've been doing since I was a little kid.
right?
So I grew up by the internet. What am I doing on the internet? I'm talking to people and I'm reading the news. Then, that's just learning about what's going on. I started hanging out with activists, and I would play music and hear these political songs, ended up in protests, and then I eventually get a job working for nonprofits doing fundraising, which developed better speaking, more charisma, better sales, and then all of a sudden I'm this, from a very young age, hyper-political salesman. And so what do you get? You get me talking about politics and news, and passionately, advocating for what I believe is right, what is true and correct. Outside of that, those two skill sets are going to get you a hosting job at a company. They, a news organization say, hey, you bring but hold on, I actually run the company. So I've also started my own small businesses in the past. When I was a little kid, did the Kool-Aid thing. My dad gave me money to sell Kool-Aid at the baseball games. And then we did that a little bit. Then me and my friend started our own skateboard clothing company just by doing early drop shipping. All of these things have to come together to be able to run a business, produce content. Then there was the technology element of it. So, I got to be honest, there's a massive array of skill sets that had to come together to put me in this position. Learning about cameras, learning about cell networks and data transmission, upload speed, streaming. It was constantly reading and learning and improving. And me and my buddies, we actually even invented some technology to be able to do live streaming out in the field. We create cooling systems, aerial drones. So it's a constant, every day, reading something new. And I'll throw one last bit on top of that. Right now, there's a lot of people concerned because in politics, viewership is down. We're in the off season, and so most people are looking. It's summer. Come on, they're going to go swimming. They're not going to sit here and talk about Donald Trump again, right? The midterms aren't until later. And so what ends up happening is a lot of people, they become depressed. They don't understand, and this is because they don't have the skill set for the social media space. These are people who they've got good ideas. Maybe they're passionate. They can speak very well. Made videos, got a bunch of views, made a bunch of money, but they don't understand the social media technology. How the algorithm works. So every day, me and my team are constantly looking at how these companies are adapting and changing on their end so that we can figure out how to adapt and change and properly run our business. We have to learn new skills every single day to maintain what we do.
You just listed 17 skills that I would count on my fingers. Right? There you go. So, if you were to tell somebody, I had to learn how to be charismatic. There's 5 or 6 skill sets just to learn on what is charisma, right? Because that's one of these ambiguous terms. And so there's 5 or 6 skill sets that are underneath that. And so for a young person starting out, start stacking skill sets, and don't just read one book about it. Like, learn how to get good at it and master it, and give yourself enough time and grace and runway.
Yeah.
So that you can get good, so that when you're in your 30s and 40s,
can we fast forward through this?
Yeah. And so I wasted a lot of my 20s, man. I wasted a lot of my 20s. I was
this is just like the Reddit
dealing with emotional trauma that I didn't really know how to deal with, so I drank a lot of it away.
We've
and got involved in that lifestyle, if you would. But I always had a propensity towards learning. I was always curious about how to learn. So I would read Rich Dad Poor Dad and start trying to understand how this stuff functions. And then I started developing a skill set. I got my first real job was at Wells Fargo, financial, and which was a subprime lender right before I could do that in 2006. So we were in one of those, but I learned a ton. I learned a ton from that time. You know, and like you said, you start stacking that, and you see, I'm a Christian, I make no bones about that, but like you see God's hand kind of navigating you through to where your purpose is, so that you can create that.
You know, I had someone email, it was like 10 years ago, I was working at Vice, they emailed me saying, how do I do what you do? And I gave like a basic breakdown, like, okay, like I'll respond to this. And then after some back and forth, I said, how about this? How about you come to New York and just hang out with me and my friends? Because then you will be immersed in the conversations, you'll see what we're doing. Choose to surround yourself. Is one piece of advice I would give. And with that being said, I think you have an event coming up, right?
We do. We have, it's called the Freedom Trading Summit, where we're going to show people everything we talked about, like enough that you can start developing this skill set for yourself, seeing how the market really moves, and engaging with it. And so if that's a skill set you want to do, it's absolutely free for your viewers. If they want to join, they can just click that QR code below and go from there. If it's something that they're not interested in, great. I hope you take something from here and you start creating skill sets for what you do want to do.
Yeah, they say you're the summation of the 5 people who surround you. And so if you're hanging out with, look, I'm going to be a little bit of a dick. If you're a commie hanging out with communists, you guys aren't going to go very far. I mean, maybe you'll have a good activist rally. But if you're a young person, you're trying to figure it out, I'm not trying to rag on your friends. I'm just saying spend as much time as you can with people who are doing the work. And it doesn't always mean the smartest guy in the world, but watch the videos and choose to enter those spaces, I think is the big key. So a simple thing I always tell people, it's like, hey, you can go to a convention, you can go to a meeting, you can go to a rally, you can go and meet these people, stand next to them, and you know what I find in most instances? I'd imagine this is true even for you, like, if someone came up to you and just said, man, I'm just trying to figure it out, could you point me in the right direction? You'd say, absolutely, of course. 100%. If there are young people out there, or even older people, and you're trying to figure it out, well, people will help you if you ask. So just come into those spaces.
So to me, it's that humble yourself. Go ask for help. Find a mentor in the space that you're wanting to grow in. And be like, hey, I see you're successful here. Can you give me some pointers? Can we meet for coffee? And most, I mean, obviously you can't go to a Tony Robbins and do that because it's a different level, right? But someone who, they do have a million plus, 2 million, 5 million, $10 million net worth. They probably live closer than you think because 1,900 are created every single day. Find someone who has that level of success and just start being around them, hang out with them, ask them to mentor you, and then actually show up and do the work. Like if they give you a book, read it twice, and then come back to it. Like, can we talk about this book? This was incredible. Blah blah blah.
There's so many like movies about this where the young guy shows up to a company, he has no experience, I want to work here, I want to do this, and they're like, but you don't have experience, and he's like, I will take out the trash, and then they start learning and adapting and growing, and just being around that is a big key. So, bro, this has been absolutely fantastic. I'd love to do a longer conversation on like all this general financial stuff because I'm so not in the financial world. I've been watching, like Caleb Hammer and some of the Kevin O'Leary stuff, and I'm getting fascinated by it. Obviously, because I need to know how to do it. So I'd love to, in the future, if you ever have time, we can do another one of these, maybe longer. But is there anything else you want to shout out before we wrap up?
Democrat operatives who were posting beforehand.
Go after your dreams, man. So, you know, for the people that you're talking about who are there, go after it. Whatever it looks like, go after it.
And then that's actually
don't compromise because your friends are compromising. I just get in this fear of people, and if you want to jump into the financial space, we have a free event. You can't get better than free 99.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, there you go. Where can people follow you?
Rumors.
You can go check us out. We have a YouTube channel at Neos CDG. If you want to go check that out. My Twitter handle, or X handle, I guess now, is at Six Figure Trader. I post on there every once in a while, but really we're focused on helping our current clients. So I don't post a ton. I do go live twice a week on YouTube, though.
Yeah, there you go. You know, normally when I make videos, it's always like the end is nigh, something bad is happening, and then you come in and you're like, actually, I think it'll be pretty good if you can figure it out. You know, we're moving in a good direction. So I'm happy to have some white pills on all of this, bro. It was great to hang out. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and we'd love to have you back sometime. So we'll see you then.
Sounds great. Thanks, Tim.
Right on, brother.
Tom, when Nikki Haley came to Massachusetts in 2024 when she was running for president, who introduced her? Yes. Yes. So I didn't say I was going to vote for her, but I did introduce her. And who coordinated all of the setup when she was coming to Massachusetts? The person quoted in New York.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting.
Interesting John Featherstone lore.
Yeah,
What's the truth about Nirav Shah? Shah was appointed by a Republican megamillionaire in Illinois and failed. Democrats called his mistakes the height of irresponsibility and negligence. That's not all. Shah worked for a union-busting firm that sides with big corporations over workers. Now, Shah is getting donations from Big Pharma, private equity, and super PAC spending from a group that wants to defund our public schools. It's a prescription for disaster for Maine working families. Don't rank Shah.
Let's count the smiles.
If you want.
Amazon Freight scales with you. Simple booking and 24/7 support. All powered by Amazon's network of smiles.
Home life during his presidency.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Be great.
You know what else would be great? Would be like a documentary on the Clone Wars. Where you talk to like people who fought in the Clone Wars.
You could do that.
I think this could have had much more of an impact
X account
if
that
the
reports
first sentence
history as
of
if
this
it's
article
happening
was
right now.
Yeah, I think that's
Graham
cool.
Plattner's
That guy's
ex-girlfriend.
And then people say like this happened years ago. It's like, what are you talking about? It just happened. Change Wilder says that quote, the quote said earlier, was from the Pope's encyclical, by the way.
Then the lawyers got a hold of it.
Change Wilder says, I always said IVF is a sin because it is, but hearing about sperm kick has made me hate it even more. You need Jesus.
You're welcome.
Brett, this one's from Mike. Brett, would you please display the pathetic bride again? You can go and look up the article.
Oh, okay. I was like,
because what we had heard in the past was that at some point afterwards,
Shane Wilder says the walls of Nehemiah.
Thought it was a joke, but now
that's right, the walls of Nehemiah.
No,
it was in, yeah. It was in the book of Nehemiah.
And they talked to a couple dozen women. I would bet
High Voltage 75 says, Brett, what's in the shirt pocket? A hanky? I should put something in there. I should.
I would be so.
Some people say that they will never be heard. Speak a little louder, I'll never hear your word. It's okay. Yeah, they're probably not listening anyway. Yeah. I was growing up, I was a dreamer, not a realist. They said you dreaming, son, because you'll never be the illest. Now I'm a mix between the realist and the dreamer. I drive a piece of shit, but I'm still dreaming of a beamer. I sat here long enough, like I was an abandoned building, walking a tightrope in this world to provide for my children. This world's in recession, bringing me to depression. So meet me at the studio for a 3-hour session to release some aggression. The microphone's a killer, music on my weapons, and I ain't the killer. The music with drums, then I'd be the dealer. If I rhyme for Sir Lawrence, I'd be the thriller, the chiller. And sat here long enough, it's time to flash out. We fuck around with all this garbage, time to take the trash out. Walk through the fire, and I get cooled off by rain. And if anybody tries to bring me down, I will get it up again and keep rising.